Hello, everyone, and welcome back to episode 97 of the Salvaggio and Cratty Sports Podcast. Here for you again on another Wednesday night, 7:31 p.m., just like last week. Episode 97, not, as we get towards the end of the jersey numbers ability here, I'll say. We're running out of names. We got Broderick Thomas, the only Celtic ever. Ufomba Kamalu, the most recent Patriot, Alan Branch, and Jarvis Green, as you saw from the tweet, if you're, following us on Twitter. But yeah, we're here. Another episode 97. Again, one closer to 100. That's always exciting. Ryan, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Very good. Obviously, the NBA Finals start tomorrow. That's big. Celtics giving you a heart attack that we'll get to in the in Game 7 of the Eastern Conference Finals against Miami, but able to overcome some late problems. First Finals appearance since 2008, so that'll obviously be exciting. Hopefully, they can knock off the heavily favored Warriors. Even though I'm starting to see on Twitter now that there's some people that are trying to maybe downplay the Warriors a little bit and make them the underdogs, which is not no, we're not doing that. It's the Warriors, the same team that's been in the finals like 6 out of the last 8 years or something ridiculous. So the Celtics are going to be the underdogs going into this. That's how I like the Celtics in this series. But like I said, we'll get to that in a minute. And then obviously there's some Bruins stuff too. Obviously some kind of discouraging Bruins news we have to get to with the Brad Marchand stuff that we talked about a little bit a couple of weeks ago. I think it was with if he should or shouldn't get the surgery. He ends up obviously getting it, and then what that means moving forward. And of course, moments of the week too.
Yeah, of course. As I'm sharing some stuff real quick. Unfortunately, we do have some unfortunate news in the hockey world to get to before we get to moments of the week. Duke Besser, Brock Besser's father, passed away this past Friday at the age of 61. For anybody who had been following that story, when the Canucks season ended, Brock had a very really heartbreaking talk with the media where they were kind of trying to, some people had problems with, asking these types of questions, but Brock, stood strong and answered them about his father's condition. And it was brutal to watch. And I can't believe he even got through it the way he did. Duke had been diagnosed with Parkinson's 12 years ago, suffered a brain injury from a car accident, had dealt with cancer, a heart attack, and dementia. The guy has just been through so much, and he's resting peacefully now. It's just a heartbreaking story. I can't speak much on knowing anyone that's dealt with Parkinson's, but knowing people in my life currently dealing with dementia, I've seen the effects it can have, and it's just so debilitating and so heartbreaking to witness. Mm-hmm. It's just brutal, and I bet Brock's family and friends are at peace knowing that he is at peace, but it just has to be an absolutely heart-wrenching time for them. And we just wanted to send our strength and condolences to the Besser family and friends and anyone affected by this. Because even as somebody who is watching this as somebody with no real affiliation, seeing the situation as with no real affiliation to Brock, it was just so hard to see. And it's just a brutal thing for anyone to have to go through. Mm-hmm. And yeah, we just wanted to send our best. I don't know if you have any additional comments.
No, like I said, I'm kind of in the same boat you are. Don't obviously have any experiences with Parkinson's or anything like that. But I can only imagine just how horrible of a thing it is to have to try to battle and go through. So kudos to him for doing that for as long as he did. And like you said, obviously you got to think there's some, just the family's at peace. Like you said, obviously as you did, knowing that, Duke Besser is at peace and not having to deal with obviously the pain that he had gone through for such a long time.
Yeah, but again, we just want to reiterate our best wishes to the Besser family and friends. Just a terrible situation, but unfortunately, dementia is just a terrible part of life, and mm-hmm. I hope someday and in the future we can find ways to combat it better and hopefully get rid of it, because it's just so heartbreaking. There's no perfect way to segue from a discussion like that, but into moments of the week. I mean, this is just the number one for me. It's the only one I have. You have just one as well. Mm-hmm. The Jordan Bennington bullshit just continues.
It's a new wrinkle every week, it seems like.
It's just obnoxious, and it's embarrassing that people still defend this guy. Mm-hmm. I understand he's a good player, whatever. you can take his side if you want. That would be pretty weird in the whole Nazem Kadri situation that unfolded with the hit. Outside of this particular wrinkle to the whole thing now with the water bottle and these comments. He's just such a loser. Like, he's such a loser. And it's just like, I really am embarrassed for Blues fans that like die hard for this guy.
Yeah, die hard, defend him. Yeah.
A couple of them, like the Hurricanes weirdos, were in my mentions. Like, oh my God, like it's just so weird. Like they just put aside these things in the past and like defend these players. Like, it's just so strange for a guy that's such a goddamn douchebag. Like, and it's the thing too is like, if he hadn't won a cup, they just wouldn't defend this guy. They probably would.
No, not in the slightest. Yep.
Yeah, it's just so lame, and these comments are so corny. Like, throwing the water bottle is a God-given opportunity. Like, who says that?
I don't know why you would word that like that in the slightest. Like,
he just
trying to make it seem more epic than it actually is. Like,
dude, it's like he's just such a loser. Like, does he couldn't find a recycling bin? Like, do recycling bins not exist outside of the arena? Like,
beats me.
It's so weird. He's like, it is what it is. Hockey, like,
no,
from a guy who lumps in throwing in empty water bottles at people and missing as a byproduct of competitiveness. Like, you're just an idiot. Like, you are. You
can't imagine there's many people,
like,
that would react like that.
Yeah, it's just like so strange. Like, I don't care what happened to you. Like, throwing an empty water bottle, like, it's just so like childish.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. Is like,
it doesn't surprise me. But it's just like, it's just so lame, and it was impossible for me to not bring up.
Well, just the takeaway I had was, like you said, how he felt that it was basically his one and only opportunity to do something about it, and your best response is not
Eminem, like one shot, one moment, whatever the fuck.
Exactly. But like, it's not like he walked up and like it interrupted his interview and like punched him in the face, or like had some sort of like WWE like background like type of like fight Shawn or something. Yeah, but like you said, to pull a childish move and throw an empty water bottle and miss him by whatever it was, 2 or 4 feet, or coming nowhere close to him, like, I feel like if it was such an important thing for you and it was such a like you said, a God-given opportunity, you would have thought he would have went all out instead of just like standing in the corner of the room and tossing a water bottle as he walked by. Like,
dude, it would have been cooler. Like, obviously not if it was a full water ball, because that's technically like assault in a way. Like,
yeah.
Like, it'd be cooler if you just hit him.
There'd be more. Yeah, I think there'd be more. Like, I mean, there's already bad blood, but like, it'd be worse. Like, it'd be a bigger story.
He's talking to the media in this like whole end of season wrap up. Like, oh, like he was laughing like on TV. Like, have you seen the TNT crew? Like, they're funny. They keep things light. Like, of course he's laughing. Like, what do you want to just be a drone with no personality? Like, it was you throwing a water bottle at him, dude. It's funny. It's childish. He's laughing at you.
Exactly. They're not laughing with you.
Yeah, like, they're laughing at you.
As they go to commercial, they're sitting there going, what the fuck is wrong with this guy? Like, why?
They're laughing at you because you do all this crap and you do the swing and stick in the regular season. And since 2019, you really haven't accomplished anything in the playoffs because your run was a fluke. You got lucky with calls from the ref or missed calls thereof. And fucking, it's just like, my God, like, just try to be normal. Like, this guy, like,
for once,
it's like he's planted by the Kardashians, like, into the NHL. He just loves drama. Like,
I was gonna say, where are you going with this?
Okay, Jordan, go like swing your stick at somebody. It'll get ratings out. Like, my God, dude, just like be a normal person. Like, I know it's hard for somebody that's such a scumbag like him.
Yep. He's not an easy guy to root for in the slightest. I don't care if you're a Blues fan or not. Like, when you pull shit like this, like, you got to, like you said, find some real low lifes to defend him and what he does. But they're out there, like you said. So,
there are people that defend him too. Like, I've heard the guys in Spittin' Chicklets, like, they've met him before. They say he's a good guy off the ice. Like, I don't doubt that, but he's just a weirdo, and he's got a trouble pass, and he's just like, it's on the ice too. He like swings sticks at people. He's like this fraud tough guy that doesn't actually fight anybody. Like, go Ron Hextall if you want to be this agitator and actually fight people. Like, come on, dude. Like, what are we doing here? I know it's a different era and you don't see goalie fights very often, but like, come on. it's just brutal and it's so corny and it's so cringeworthy. Yeah, I'm gonna give it a tier 4, but it's like worthy of a tier 5 here.
Right on the fringe.
Yeah, but it's just so strange. Such strange behavior.
Yep.
But onto yours as something that is more positive. We're going one sort of negative, one positive. More so just making fun of the guy than negative. But
exactly. But shedding light on what was kind of a negative situation, I guess you could maybe describe it as, with maybe two negative players, depending on how you look at both of them. No, I took the easy route. I took the easy way out. It also helps us transition into Celtics talk pretty good. I think the clear-cut moment of the week is obviously the Celtics clinching a trip to the NBA Finals. This has kind of been talked about all playoffs. They kind of exercise the demons, go through the teams that they haven't been able to beat. Obviously, knock off Brooklyn in the first round. Brooklyn, of course, knocked them out in the 2021 playoffs, 4-1. Then they beat Milwaukee in the next round. Milwaukee knocked them out in 2018 to 2019 season. And then obviously we'll get to the Miami stuff in a second, but being able to go through them after Miami, kind of fluky, depending on how you look at it. Obviously, Miami beat the Celtics in the 1920 season in that bubble year. But nice to see the Celtics, obviously, like I said, exercise some demons, finally get over the hump with this Jalen, Jason, and Marcus Smart type of core. No, obviously, there was a lot of questions surrounding those three guys, particularly, obviously, Tatum and Brown. We had talked about that at the start of the season, and when they were struggling, were they going to have to blow this thing up? Could these two guys play together? Nice to see just them in general be able to obviously overcome that. And then, of course, Smart, who's been here longer than the two of them, being able to jump on that as well. And then obviously a lot of guys have had the conference finals experience and just not been able to get over the hump. You look at that 2016-17 season when they go to the conference finals against Cleveland and lose that. Jaylen Brown, Al Horford, and Marcus Smart were on that team. 17-18 when they lost, they had that collapse against Cleveland. That was Brown, Horford, Smart, Tatum, and Tice were on that team. And then the 2019-2020 season, that bubble loss to Miami featured Brown, Smart, Tatum, Tice, and both Williamses. So obviously nice to see those guys who had a ton. That was kind of the discussion going into the game, is the Celtics had a bunch of guys who had played in conference finals games, but obviously weren't able to ever get over the hump. And that was kind of the question surrounding, like I said, more so Brown and Smart and Tatum. Just good to see them obviously get over it. They were obviously ecstatic. Al Horford was, I don't know if he was crying on the court, but like you could tell it was a big emotional moment for him when he obviously was down on all fours and banging the court. So good to see him. Obviously all the guys coming over, and he was one of the first guys that everyone was looking to, because obviously it was 152, I think it was up to playoff games without him making it the NBA Finals yet. So just a good moment for him as well.
Yeah, I mean, it was just a positive situation all around. Anytime you go to the finals, that's pretty dope, believe it or not. Yeah, and the way things kind of unfolded, as we'll get to like late in the game, it's just nice that they held on. First finals appearance since 2010. Looking for the first, banner since.
That's right. I said 8 by mistake. Yep.
Yeah, Matt called that out in the chat, calling you a dingus. But
I'm focusing more so on the positive finals appearances than the negative ones. That's
that one's
how you got to go about it.
Far in the back reaches our minds.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, it was the most into a Celtics game I've ever been into. Like it was, I was pretty confident early on, and then it got to a point like kind of like the second quarter where like we're at the bar. I wasn't even cheering that much. I would just kind of like, a little bit, then just like I was like zoned in. I've never been that zoned in on a Celtics game. But it was a pretty decent atmosphere at the bar. It was fun. Some absolute weirdos next to us at different points throughout the day that just like talking about just obnoxious shit and being obnoxious and just being weird.
Was this the jukebox guy night, or was that a different night?
Oh, it was the jukebox. The jukebox guy. I wasn't even thinking about him.
Yeah.
This guy, dude, like it got to the point where I like bought some credits on TouchTune and would just ruin his mojo a little bit by requesting like a song by like Travis Scott, or like some rap hip hop song.
Something just to fuck with him.
He was at the jukebox, and I talked to the waitress about this too. She thought it was weird. Like one of the other waitresses thought it was weird too. He was there for like 20 minutes, and he ends up with like, once his songs got in there, it was like 3 Lady Gaga songs. Mind you, this is a guy in just like a beat up like red t-shirt, didn't even know what it said.
Okay.
And, like cargo shorts and like dad type shoes, like like outdoor shoes. Like this guy like wouldn't pin him as a Lady Gaga fan.
Okay.
Pin him more as like a a Guns N' Roses fan. Like
Metallica, something like that.
To November Rain, he did have Metallica as well.
Okay, what a guess by me. There we go.
November Rain, 9-minute song, ridiculous song to request.
Not at a bar. Nope.
At a bar. So I just like put some stuff in the middle there, like just to mix it up a little bit. And I think I literally made a guy leave.
Okay.
Not kidding. My song, I forget which one I put on at the time, but he literally walked out. And I don't think he came back in.
All right.
So maybe that was just a coincidence. Maybe it wasn't. That was really funny. It wasn't even the guy, but it was just outrageous. It was outrageous. Like,
was he by himself or was he with people?
I think he was with like one person.
Okay.
And he was at the jukebox by himself because obviously like
the other person didn't want to be seen with him.
No competent person would stand there for 20 minutes. Like, oh yeah, dude, like good songs. Like,
just thinking it over. Like, well, if you play that one now, we might be able to get that in later.
Well, I was gonna decline a phone call here. It was just bizarre. It was really bizarre, and it finally ended, and like things kind of returned to normalcy. And just the people next to us were like really like loud, annoying too. One of them was like very drunk and like harassing people around him, and I was like, this guy's just a bad guy.
It's just a disaster.
His supposed girlfriend walks over at some point. I was like, where is his girlfriend? Like maybe she just like let him walk away because he's being annoying. Like, oh, he can go annoy other people, and it just happened to be me and Matt. Just a crazy experience. I hope I gave some people a laugh documenting it on my Snapchat. I don't really post much on my Snapchat story, so I was just kind of feeling it. I was like, maybe this will give some people a laugh. I'll document it a little bit. It was really bizarre, but it was just a good
one
experience.
Psycho, yeah.
The drinks were flowing. The popcorn chicken was delicious, and after 9:30 there, they only served pizza, so we grabbed a little pizza. We're enjoying the vibes. We got there early, got a good seat at the bar. Good stuff. Good win. And yeah, it's a relief because with the hype around the Celtics team and the Bruins losing in the first round, it really would have sucked to see the Celtics get this far and come up short of making the finals. It's nice, there's that parade potential, which is always fun in the city.
Yep.
Beating a team like Golden State would be an incredible accomplishment given their pedigree and still a lot of that core from their championship teams. There's a lot to be excited about. And I think, I talked to a coworker about this today. This is probably like going into the playoffs or, maybe like even before the playoffs, when the Celtics were heating up, people were thinking about finals matchups, whatever, storylines that could happen if certain teams play whoever. Like this is probably one of the ideal outcomes for ratings and just for
fans. I 100% think so. Yep.
Has to be maybe the most ideal outcome. Like, besides maybe if people wanted to see Durant and Kyrie for some reason because it's the Nets and all the with them, or the Sixers with Harden going to the finals and Embiid and a potential MVP season, whatever you could have put out there. But very excited and nice to see the win and excited to break it down because it was a nerve-wracking game, but a relief. We were going nuts and very relieved to see them pull it off.
Oh, for me, I feel like Game 7 was kind of a microcosm of just the entire Celtics season and how up and down it was. Because just the start of the game. Game 7 for me, at least, I was talking to a buddy of mine. It was the most worried and maybe the least confident I felt in the Celtics all playoffs. Just because I'm like, it's Miami. They're the number 1 seed. They're going to play well at home. I felt like, and I just think that they've done it before. They did it in the bubble game, the bubble playoffs that the Celtics were in against them. They figured out how to close that series out, and really the Celtics really didn't have a chance in the last game of that series. So I'm like, oh, it's Miami at home. Again, we talked about it when the series started. That one of the big things that I fear was Eric Spoelstra. He's going to figure something out. And just like all the things, like I know the Celtics obviously had bounced back from adversity all playoffs, but like I just felt like if this was going to be their time to run out, it was probably going to be here. They get out to a phenomenal start. They got out to a start that we kind of hope they would throughout the entire playoffs. They get out, they outscore Miami 32-17 in the first quarter. They were fast breaking like crazy. They outscored them 20-13 in the game. I think at one point it was like 13-0 in that first quarter. And that was obviously great to see because we talked about this numerous times before the series started, during it, when they weren't doing it. We both said, the Celtics are best when they're out and running and pushing the pace against Miami because Miami can't keep up with them. They have really Jimmy Butler, and that was it. Kyle Lowry was banged up, so he's not going to be as great when it comes to transition defense. Tyler Hero didn't play a whole lot. He's not great on defense anyway. So if that was where the Celtics were going to get him, they were going to have to do that. And again, that they get out and do that was good. And then again, you see them second quarter, end of the second quarter, third quarter, they kind of take their foot off the gas when it comes to that. They turn more into ISO ball, stuff like that. And that's where it really hurt them. And then, of course, that fourth quarter was just, like I said, a heart attack waiting to happen. But it was just a crazy game. Like, you finally have Marcus Smart show up. I mean, obviously we'll talk about Smart in a second about, that fourth quarter, but he gives you 24 points, has some big plays defensively. Jaylen Brown had a bounce back, performance. He was up and down all series, but he gave you 24. Jason Tatum, 26, excellent all around game from him. He really turned into a facilitator in the second half, which is what they needed, because obviously Miami turned up the pressure on him. They started doubling him more in the second half, and he was able to find some wide open guys. Obviously they didn't hit a ton of shots. Again, being Marcus Smart, but there was a lot to like about game 7. There was a lot not to like. And like I said, that last final 5 or so minutes was like, I keep saying it was a heart attack waiting to happen, because it was just, again, just the Celtics taking their foot off the gas. And that's kind of the thing that worries me about this series against Golden State is we talked about, and I said it in the opening, Golden State's been to the finals, I think 6 out of the last 8 years. They've obviously won a ton. They have guys that, have plenty of championship pedigree. They're a team that if, the Celtics let them creep back into a game, they can obviously shoot themselves back into a game, and they know what it takes to win this time of the year in this type of series, in this type of environment. So that's kind of, as like I said, jump into it really quickly here, and we'll jump back into the Heat stuff in a second. That's the big thing for me looking at this Golden State series is if Boston gets these chances to knock off Golden State and close the door on them and slam the door shut, they have to take them, because you can get away with, Miami and just having Jimmy Butler and, not being able to crawl back into these games. And you got away with it a couple of times again in the Milwaukee series. You're not going to be able to get away with it with the likes of Steph Curry and Klay Thompson and even Jordan Poole, who's been phenomenal. He's been, the third splash brother. People are kind of naming him. He's been great too. Those are guys that aren't going to let you, squeak away with wins here and there.
Yeah, you mentioned the fourth quarter, dude. Like, oh my God, Marcus Smart was trying to actively kill me.
I said that to my dad. I'm like, he's actively shooting them out of a chance to go to the finals.
Oh my God.
How bad he turned back into pre-January Marcus Smart, which was the massive problem.
And I was just out of pure anger. I was like, oh my God, trade Marcus Smart,
Mm-hmm.
Like, just
get him off the court, do something.
Like, just trade him. Like, if he screws this up, trade him this offseason. Like, obviously, out of pure emotion, not being serious. Emotions were running very high, more than they ever have for a Celtics game in my entire life.
Yep.
He was a professional brick handler, as I called him the day.
That's for sure.
Like, oh my God, like you'd think after a couple times he would just stop or try to like slow things down and maybe re-strategize things and maybe realize hey, it's not working and it's late.
Do something else.
Let's do something else because we have other guys that can score. It's not just me. It was driving me crazy and it was giving me a mini, anxiety attack. Just didn't need it in my night that night. But I mean, yeah, the biggest thing too is the balanced scoring effort is just huge. When you
it was nice.
You needed it to combat, Jimmy Butler in particular. You didn't want a game where, someone's struggling and Jimmy Butler goes out and drops a huge game and, makes it a lot tougher for you. They were able to withstand it, only winning by 4, not a big margin, but they were able to withstand it enough. They just, sometimes you got to go with just getting the win, not, it doesn't have to be super pretty all the time. You want it to, but man, I'm glad they pulled it off because that seriously would have been like,
it would have been epic collapse if they lost.
I saw Jim Murray make an interesting point that if the Celtics blew that, they'd be like worse in big situations than the Bruins.
Yep. I saw that too. I 100%. I was like, I didn't want to, but I'm like, he's 100% right. Like everything the Bruins have done the last couple of years gets let off the hook if the Celtics, because I mean, they were up 13 with 3 minutes to go. And like, that was the thing with me is the end of the game is like, I didn't have a problem with the shots Marcus Smart was taking, because like, if you look at all those threes he took, I mean, the one kind of questionable shot was the layup he tried against Bam, which was not going to work. But like I said, Tatum was getting doubled. He was passing out of the double team, which was good. I know there was some people that said all of a sudden, do you want Jason Tatum in clutch moments to take over the game? But if if he's being doubled, you want him to make the right play. You don't want to turn the ball over and then Miami wins the game that way. So he was finding the open guys. And this was kind of the thing that I heard Felger and Maz discuss is, do you put the shot taking on Marcus Smart, or do you put a little bit of the near collapse on Ime Udoka for after the the second or third shot that Smart misses, but he's the open guy on those trips, you sit there and go, well, maybe we should run a play to get a guy like Jaylen Brown open, or even like Grant Williams, or somebody who you maybe have a little bit more confidence in that can knock down a shot. Because if you went back and watched, the final 3 minutes, Jaylen Brown, as good as a game as he had, kind of just turned into a floater. Like he was just kind of out there. It really became Tatum and Smart towards the end. And again, like I'm fine with Tatum giving the ball up if he doesn't have a shot. You'd like him to maybe try to find a way to create more. But again, if he's being doubled, like I don't want him costing the Celtics by turning the ball over, because you'd be more pissed off at that if, he turned, because that happened in one of the games in this series. He turned the ball over too much, obviously the loss. But so that was the thing with me. It's like, it wasn't really bad shots Smart was taking. Like he was taking open threes. He just couldn't hit any of them. And after, like I said, the second or third missed three, exactly. You're sitting there going, okay, could we maybe get Brown off a screen? Could you maybe put Horford in the corner and have him knock one of those like standing still flat-footed threes down and maybe seal the game that way? Exactly, with his funky shot. Because that was the big thing for me. Like, we'll give Marcus Smart all the credit in the world for the turnaround that he's had this season. And obviously he's a guy that's not afraid of the big moment. But like, dude, at some point you got to sit there and go, okay, the shots aren't falling. Like maybe drive in, try to go to the basket, get fouled, do something. Because like I said, I mean, I was sitting with my dad. You could see it coming. It's like, because he said it, it's like, all right, you got to get the ball and obviously kill clock here. I'm like, yeah, but you have to score too. And they're not scoring, which is going to make this a whole lot more difficult. And that's exactly what happened. So it was a very tense last 3 minutes. And luckily, I mean, Jimmy Butler made a decision that we're going to talk about in a second that some people are second guessing, that he and the Heat are not. But just again, that the Celtics were able to get away with that win is good. But there are some definite things you have to kind of fix and, rattle out that can't happen. Because the same thing too, is I went back and looked at, just speaking of Smart really quick, he took the most shots in the fourth quarter in Game 7 between him, Brown, and Tatum. He took the most shots in the fourth quarter in Game 6. I think he took the most in the game for Game 6 and 7 as well. So again, like we talked about this during the season, there was the stat when Smart shoots the ball, whatever it was, 10 or less times, they had a much better winning record than they did when he shot the ball over 10 or more times. Like, you can't really afford to get back into that trend if he's not shooting the ball as well as he's had previously. So that's something I think obviously you have to kind of keep an eye on.
Yeah, one thing for no real, this little sidebar, for no real particular reason outside of the fact that it was just cool, was, I don't know, was it the third or fourth quarter, like Jason Tatum had that like turnaround jumper that everybody was like tweeting about, that like really smooth like turnaround jumper, like just right of the basket.
Yep.
That was like that type of shot that guys like him make look easy when they're really not. Like distance wise, it's not like he's doing that from 3-point range, but like just have that ability there. I was like, okay, like we're still in this. Like if Tatum's making plays like that or that are probably sneaky difficult look easy, like I have faith. There were no lead changes in this game, which looking at the outline earlier today, I'd kind of forgot. Like I was just kind of watching the scoreboard and not really thinking about stuff like that, just kind of watching the scoreboard following along. But pretty crazy in a Game 7. I don't think that's a really common thing. And that's whatever, it just depends on the series, but it's not worth buying into too much.
But that was, that was kind of a to feed into it too, of how crazy the game was. Like the Celtics, again, they respond to adversity and, play well, come out, have their heads on straight. And you, like I said, you get out and run, you play well. And then you have that, like you mentioned, it came close. It came very close, but they never gave up the lead. The game was never tied. So obviously they knew what they had to do, obviously executed the game plan, but like, that's just another factor into how crazy this game was and how, one or two different shots or really one massive shot from Jimmy Butler, if that falls in a different direction, we might be talking about something completely different here. But like I said, it all comes down to me. It's like you have to figure out how to stop these lapses, these times where you just have a complete lapse of judgment and you have these 3 to 4 minute stretches where you just, like I said, turn into the pre-January Celtics. The thing I had on Smart really quick, I found in the outline. Game 6 and 7, Smart led the Celtics in fourth quarter field goal attempts, second half field goal attempts, and the most shot attempts for the entire game. Took 15 shots in Game 6, 22 in Game 7. Unless he's like 10 for 15 and 19 for 22, that's not a recipe for success unless he's absolutely shooting the lights out. Maybe he will, because he's had some really good success against Golden State. It's one of the teams he's played probably better in his career than others. So maybe he'll catch fire in this series, but yeah, could we, if it comes down to crunch time, put the ball in Brown and or Tatum's hands and let them, maybe create their own shots instead of bricks for 3 straight minutes?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm just
it's okay.
Something up for social real quick.
Mm.
Yeah, I mean, it goes back to something I talk about pretty much like every time we talk about the Celtics. Like, I don't want Marcus Smart to return to Marcus Smart when he would do that more frequently and just take. They weren't super like bad shots, like you said, shot selection wise overall, but at times he just feels like if he's Jason Tatum, it feels like, and
you
just can't have that because he's not Jason Tatum.
Especially does not have that shooting ability.
His defensive game is better than it's ever been. Like, being good as a defender and doing that in the past is whatever, was more magnified in the past, but you don't need to do that as much, especially when you're just such a reliable defender. Like, leave the scoring if you can, if they're not doubled or, if you can find, an open way to pass to them, leave it to the guys who are, get paid the big bucks to do so. You're paid to, contribute scoring and defend.
Yep.
So, obviously that's an identity of the Celtics now. Like, they have guys like Jaylen Brown's overall been a pretty good defender throughout his career. But Jason Tatum has really improved as a defender. Derek White can defend. Rob Williams is a great defender. Like, there's a defensive identity team. You're at the center of that. You need to prioritize that more. And I'm not saying, these shot selection, segments of the game are impacting his defensive ability, but it's just like, that's where your major focus is. Like,
that's where priority one.
I'm just trying to make sense of this, and I think that's the best thing I can come up with.
I think so. I think you hit the nail on the head there.
Yeah, but I don't know. It's not gonna look as pretty against Golden State. I can say if if becoming a problem.
Yep, if this is what happens.
On it, but
no, that's what I mean. I think this is something like they know. Obviously, Miami turned up the intensity. They kind of got caught scrambling. And like I said, you can't afford to do that against Golden State. The other obviously big talking point from the end of that Heat game was the speaking of shot selection, the shot selection for Jimmy Butler. The pull-up 3 with 16 seconds left when they were down 2. Some people have liked the shot. Some people have not liked it. Like I said, Butler and Spoelstra and the Miami Heat, they all defended it, saying it was a good shot. I didn't think it was a bad shot for Butler. I mean, you go back and look at that play. He had Al Horford on his heels. It's like listening to Jaylen Brown and Al Horford talk about it post game. Is Brown flat out said, it surprised everyone. He was shocked that Jimmy Butler pulled that shot. But Butler had been shooting better from deep in the series before missing that shot. He was 5 for 11 between games 6 and 7. Probably one of the best 3-point shooting stretches of his career. Clearly wanted to go for the kill shot, at home. Obviously want to get the crowd going if they can hit that shot. Maybe obviously Boston has to use probably the last timeout. Maybe Miami makes a defensive stop like they had been doing. The Celtics don't score and the Heat go to the finals. So I didn't have a problem with it. Butler has that type of mentality that he's going to be the guy that, single-handedly can kill a team. He showed that in a couple games in this series. Did you have a problem? Were you surprised he pulled the 3? Like I said, only down 2, or were you one of the people that was like, that's the type of player Jimmy Butler is? If he's going to have that shot, he's going to take it.
That's exactly where I'm at. I expect Jimmy Butler to go for, a big time shot there. Would it have been smarter to go for the 2? Yeah, but like, as much as you can make a decision there, it's kind of like a heat of the moment thing. Like, he probably wasn't like, I can't. He was probably in the back of his mind like, I can't overthink this.
Whatever they give me, I'm taking. Probably
is even worse. Yeah, like, and obviously the outcome, if he did hit it, it was pretty good. But it's just a risk he was willing to take in the moment.
Yep.
I will say this though, man, like, he truly is terrifying.
There were people after game 6 that were comparing him to the LeBron James game 7 performance from a couple of years back. That collapse. I mean, it was there. I mean, all the same mentality, the same look he had that night. Both guys. I mean, Jimmy Butler, like I said, he is a stone cold killer when he needs to be. Obviously, just kind of missed that shot at the end. But I mean, there are arguments. I can see people arguing against it. Looking back at it, looking just through the box score. Like you said, if he drives the lane, maybe he was getting to the free throw line pretty good in the series. Maybe the refs, would have put the whistles away in the final 16 seconds, but who knows? That's obviously a question that we'll never have answered. if he drives, Brown and Horford were the only two guys that were really back and set on defense. Jaylen Brown had 5 fouls. Al Horford had 4. So maybe, again, do the referees want to, if Brown goes to contest, do the refs want to call a 6th foul on Jaylen Brown? And, maybe if the game goes to overtime, the Celtics don't have their second best star. Can you pick up a 5th foul on Al Horford? Like, there are all these questions, obviously, they'll never get answered, but there are some legitimate, maybe some second guesses for Butler. Cause like I said, he's the guy that we talked about it when the series started or after game 1. Like, for the Celtics to be successful, you would have to limit him going to the free throw line because he's a guy that doesn't flop. He knows how to get contact and how to get to the line and be very successful there. So that's one of the big second guesses. It's just kind of the thing I thought of. It's like maybe he goes there, gets a foul call, but then again, you have to, even if he ties the game, it goes up by 1. It still gives the Celtics a chance to come down, have call a timeout and get a play they want to run. So who knows? But in the end, I think you and I are both in agreement that was probably the best decision for a guy that, plays like he doesn't want to obviously lose. And like I said, he went out there and went for the kill and off his hand, again, heart stopped because it looked like it was going in. It wouldn't have, surprised me if it did with how well he played in the last 2 games. And luckily it rimmed out.
Yeah, he doesn't need to flop when, Kyle Lowry takes all the spotlight.
Exactly. Yep.
He's the main attraction.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's, I do, obviously the Celtics winning is awesome, but I do kind of feel for Butler. Just a guy like, in any year the Celtics weren't to win, I'd love to see him win.
Yeah, he's a guy I can get behind. He's the only guy on that team I can get behind. Like, I can't stand anyone else except for him.
Yeah, he's an easy guy to root for to me. Some people, see the fire, maybe, are like root for a rival team of the Heat, maybe don't like him or what for whatever reasons don't like him. But I don't know, a guy that can lock it in like that, I have a lot of respect for. So
yeah, absolutely.
And yeah, they just, I don't know. I feel like at times throughout the series, he was kind of the main guy a little too much, and it just didn't, work out in the end enough for them to pull it out. 4-point win is what it took for the Celtics. So
what was that number? You said 4 points. Okay, so that was the other thing too. I was going to very quickly bring up because it's caught Twitter by storm. The Max Strus, everyone complaining about the 3-pointer getting waved off. That I can see some people arguing, maybe momentum would have been changed. But again, if you're just going off of what the shot would have been and what the game ended by point wise, Miami still loses by 1 if that shot goes in. Just
so Max Strus, I don't know when the Bachelorette TV schedule and all that starts, but if he wants to audition, he like fits in with like the douchebag look there.
Oh, that's what I mean. Like him,
if he wants
hero.
To get away from, what was it? He talking about the Boston crowd like not being that loud. What was it he said?
Oh, I can't. I briefly kind of remember what, but I don't know exactly what.
Yeah, like that guy. I'm sorry, that guy just doesn't look like a basketball player. He looks like he should be on the Bachelorette. Yeah, man, I'm just glad they pulled it off because like we talked about the start, like losing in such a heartbreaking fashion. The Bruins losing the first round. It's just not a great way to end the playoffs. Until perhaps the Red Sox make the playoffs, so they pull off a crazy run.
Funny.
Or the Patriots.
That's even funnier.
A little less than a year's time. But my God, I'm just glad they pulled it off because I was so invested in that game, more so than I ever had been in a Celtics game in my life. Sure, winning the championship in 2008, I was invested, but I was like 11. So.
Yeah, it's one you don't really remember all that much, or not fondly, but
much about the game either.
Exactly. You're not developed in your sports takes and I
know ball
your
now,
passion.
Yep,
exactly.
About ball.
Big brain.
The Golden State Warriors, the team we've talked about a little bit. Let's get to previewing that.
Yeah, we can dive right into them. Obviously going to be a very tough series. Again, to me, it comes down, as we'll get into a little later, what some things to expect in this series. I think experience is going to be something that's going to reign pretty true. Hopefully the Celtics can buck that. Because obviously Golden State has all the experience. I think the number is like 123 games of experience for the Golden State Warriors when it comes to finals. And the Celtics obviously have nobody on their roster with NBA finals experience, which is crazy. Yeah, but that's what I mean. You get all this homegrown talent. I mean, Al Horford obviously has kind of been incredibly unlucky, been in the league for so long and as many playoff games as he had, and was never able to crack through. Obviously, you got to think the Celtics will lean on him pretty heavily just to see if they can give him anything. But these are two teams that faced off twice during the regular season. It doesn't help us at all to maybe get a glimpse of how the series is going to go because they split the season series back in December. The Warriors beat the Celtics 111-107. And then on the 16th of, what is that, May? I always get May and March confused.
Weird.
Yeah, I know, right? I'm not the best when it comes to months and anything like that. It's not my expertise. The Celtics, they went into Golden State and beat up on the Warriors 110-88. The big thing for both these games is neither team was really all that at 100%. That game back in December, the Celtics did not have Al Horford and Grant Williams. Golden State did not have Klay Thompson, who was still rehabbing from his injury. Jordan Poole, James Wiseman was out for the whole season. Steph Curry led the way in that game with 30 points. Andrew Wiggins factored in 27. Jason Tatum had 27, Brown had 20, Smart had 19, Rob Williams had 7, Aaron Nesmith had 11, and Peyton Pritchard had nothing. Got to think Peyton Pritchard will, be a step up in this series, or at least I think he will. And then that game with the Celtics won. Boston was fully healthy, but Golden State did not have Andre Iguodala, Gary Payton II, Andrew Wiggins, James Wiseman, and Steph Curry. Of course, that was the controversial game where everyone wanted to, arrest Marcus Smart and, kick him out of the league because he dove for a loose ball and fell on Steph Curry's ankle, and everyone wanted to, Yep, that was the game where, Steve Kerr was like, that's a dirty play, and everyone was, again, up in arms about Marcus Smart just diving for a loose ball and happened to fall on Steph Curry's ankle, and obviously he missed the remaining, I don't know if it was like 10 to 15 games of the season, but he's fine, obviously. I mean, Golden State's in the finals. He is playing in a MVP caliber. Again, for these playoffs, kind of a big thing for him in these finals, cement his legacy. That's one of the big storylines. Obviously, if he can get a finals MVP trophy, obviously he had not won one yet when Golden State won those finals. But that's kind of the big thing there. Like you mentioned earlier about ratings and stuff like that, probably the best case scenario for the league. There were a ton of storylines in this series. I already mentioned the experience versus the non-experience, the whole thing with Steph Curry, and obviously, can he get that? I don't see that. I never understood that argument because, I don't think, obviously, you're doing a ton to help your team if you win finals MVP. But a guy like Steph Curry, who's pretty much done everything there is to do in the league, like, does he really need a finals MVP to cement his legacy? Like, he was very instrumental in the years that obviously Durant and Andre Iguodala won the MVPs.
Just the cherry on top.
Exactly. It's just, a little extra. There's obviously the Jason Tatum. His legacy is already being discussed. Could he, run through Kevin Durant and Kyrie, Giannis, go through Jimmy Butler and the Heat, now take down Steph Curry and Klay Thompson and the Warriors? What will that mean for his very early legacy? Which I find that funny that they're already discussing Jason Tatum's legacy at 24, but it is something to think about.
Speaking of his very early legacy, like, the interesting thing about this too, and this could end up meaning nothing depending on the result of the series, is the Celtics have zero experience in the finals with this team, or just like players in different situations. Before the Celtics, kind of gives a little unpredictability factor. The Warriors can know all they want, and from what I gathered from seeing some media stuff today, they have a lot of respect for the Celtics and their defensive identity and how they've turned things around. But these guys could hit another level in the finals that we've never quite seen. And will it be consistent? That's hard to say. How will it fluctuate? But it's an interesting thing to monitor. The other big storyline, Steph Curry gets his golf clubs regripped. Is he going to get new head covers?
What does that mean? Yeah.
What types of balls is he getting? Is he using Pro V1s or Callaways? I don't know. Something to monitor. Hope the Golden State media is on that.
Do you take it as bulletin board material, maybe, that he thinks the series is going to be over very soon, and Golden State might take the Celtics out quick, and he might go golfing afterwards?
Stupidly, my first thought was, him preparing, like, if he were to lose, he just wants to have his golf stuff ready. But it could be, or maybe just he had some free time. But
I think that's might be what it is.
They're going to read into it when there's really no specific reason except people are bored. We'll talk about a similar situation like that with the Bruins in a little while, but it's a little more poignant. Poignant. I don't know why I just said poignant.
Poignant, yeah.
I think it's poignant. I don't know.
Words are tough sometimes.
I don't struggle with the English language that much, but
I do.
It's okay. I struggle with the English language in this pod from talking too fast sometimes.
Yeah, that's usually my problem too. But
it's okay. We're
adapt and overcome.
We're just so addicted to the grind. Sorry for party rocking.
Sorry for going too hard. But yeah, what are some things? I have a couple, obviously, that we'll get to in a second, but I don't know if is there anything like we talked about legacies a little bit. Obviously, you've got probably the best offensive team in the playoffs versus the best defensive team. What are some of the things you are maybe storylines or just in general looking for or looking out for in the series?
My X factor this series is Marcus Smart,
because I want to see mine as well.
I want to see in a whole series what he can do defensively against a team like this. What the Celtics can do to, move past Draymond Green defensively.
Mm-hmm.
On the offensive side of the ball, of course, that means for the Celtics. It's really interesting how you have, what you said, the best offensive team in the NBA, arguably, and then the best defensive team. It's kind of just like a polar opposite type of thing where it kind of goes back to that unpredictability, because I think the beginning of the series is going to be a feeling out process. Some might say, that's obvious. You're from different conferences and it's the first game of the finals, a lot of time off in between, of course. But I mean, it's different when you have this gap, and it's not to say like the Warriors have such a better offense than the Celtics. The Celtics have such a better defense than the Warriors. It's just, number one on one side, number one on the other. It's a pretty interesting, angle to have on the series. But yeah, Marcus Smart's my X factor. That's not to say Tatum and Brown aren't going to be important, but Marcus Smart, to cap off a Defensive Player of the Year award season for a guard for the first, 96 when Peyton won it last?
I believe so, yeah.
That would just be an incredible way to cap it off. Jalen and Jason are trying to build their legacy with, their first final appearance being a dub. Al Horford winning, that's a lot to play for. And he's, it's not like he's just coaching the bench at this point in his career as a veteran. He's an actual impact guy, which would, improve the satisfaction of winning the finals, of course. It's a really interesting series because you have one team trying to prove themselves and start a legacy, and you have the other team trying to build an incredible legacy, one of the best legacies we've seen in our lifetimes, and I think in years we've seen across sports. You don't see teams with this type of dominance too often. You saw the LA Kings win a couple Stanley Cups. So the Blackhawks went 3 and 5. You've seen like the Islanders back in the 80s win a bunch. The Canadians win a bunch of times. Like teams, go on these runs where they win multiple championships. The Patriots, of course. But it's funny that, people are dying on the hill, maybe, I don't know, of, Steph needs the finals MVP to cement his legacy. But it's really interesting that the differences, in terms of these teams and, how legacies are going to be changed depending on whether they win or lose. It's kind of like a league where I feel like you can get two pretty good teams and it's whatever, whoever wins, it's just like good, this person might get their first championship, second championship, but like there's different legacies on the line and to be built here. And I think that's really interesting about this series.
Oh, the Marcus Smart is the X factor thing is like you mentioned, I'll 100% agree with you there. Cause like I said, I think this obviously a lot is being made of, the 2 stars on each team, Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown for the Celtics, and obviously Steph Curry and Klay Thompson, the Splash Bros for Golden State. Like I mentioned, they have a third and upcoming guy, if he's already there. I mean, Jordan Poole has been excellent. 18.4 points per game in this playoffs. He's shooting 53.1% from the field, 39.3% from deep. So, the Celtics, maybe you limit Steph one night, but you obviously have Klay and Jordan Poole still there to worry about. Marcus Smart is going to have to be that guy that steps up. And, if Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, one of them has an off night or one of them gets locked down, which, I mean, I don't want to discredit Golden State, but that kind of is going to factor into another one of my points is like, I just think the Celtics are a much better, more physical team.
Options.
Exactly. But Smart's going to have to be a guy that steps up. I don't have it because my laptop has crapped the bed now and the outline will not come up on my laptop. Do you have I'm trying to read it off my phone, but the comments aren't coming up on my phone. Do you have, actually I might be able to pull it up here. Smart's, because the reason I say Marcus Smart is his career numbers against Golden State. Just going off the eye test and looking back at some games, I always thought, he had a couple of good games against Golden State in his career. In 12 games, 8 career starts, he's averaged 12.1 points. That's the third best against any team of his career. He's shooting 37% from deep. That is the best 3-point shooting percentage against any team in his career. So maybe Marcus Smart sees the Golden State Warriors and And maybe there's a little extra juices flowing there. There was a tweet too I'm trying to find really quick about Smart's defense against Steph Curry whenever he's matched up against him, if I can get that. Yeah, this was from Basketball Forever a day ago on Twitter. Said Stephen Curry has shot 33.3% when guarded by Marcus Smart since the 2017-2018 season. He is just 9 for 27 if people like me can't do the math really quick. So Marcus Smart has made a difference in these games against the Golden State Warriors. He's been very good against them, like I said, just from stat standpoint, from obviously being out there, being able to lock down Steph. So he's going to be a guy, obviously, the Celtics have to look pretty heavily towards probably. You got to think you get a step-up game here or there from Al Horford. You'd like to see some contributions from more so from Grant Williams, because he kind of, I don't want to say disappeared in the Heat series, but I mean, he got off to a strong start in that series and then really didn't give you a whole lot. Derek White was good in the Heat series. You're probably going to have to get a little bit from him. And then I think Peyton Pritchard, again, because Golden State, they're a smaller team than Miami. You didn't see really any of Peyton Pritchard because there really weren't a ton of good matchups in that Heat series for him. I think this Golden State series, if he can keep up with Steph, maybe if he can keep up, I know they're bigger bodies, but Clay or Jordan Poole, maybe you get Peyton Pritchard out there because, again, you're going to need all the shooting you can get in this series against Golden State. You know what they can do from deep. Peyton Pritchard's been excellent from the three-point line in the playoffs so far. Get him going again, get him out there and getting you some offense would be good to see. But it's one of those things where I don't. Obviously, you're going to have Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown step up because they're going to have to. But I think this is going to be a series where it's going to have to be like, I think you mentioned it, a full team. Whoever's out there for the Celtics is going to have to give it. It's stupid to say because it's the finals, but give it their all. Because you're going to need that, again, all hands on deck against a Golden State team that knows what it takes to win and isn't really going to get shaken probably by the big moment here.
Yeah, I think you have to play more mistake-free basketball.
Exactly, yep.
Series you have. The interesting thing, too, is, going back to the defense, I feel like I can safely say the Celtics just have way better defensive options overall than Golden State. I know Draymond's the main guy. But even off the bench for the Celtics, Grant Williams is no schmuck defensively. He's not like this superstar like Smart level, or even Rob Williams. I think plays like star level defense, to name a couple. But yeah, I think that just has to be an advantage, and it has to be something the Celtics are especially sharp on. Obviously, scoring points is important, but if you can limit Steph at any stretches of the game, and then Poole by extension or one of the two, and then that still leaves you with Clay, which is the thing that kind of butts heads with the defensive depth. That's your formula for success, and they just have leadership too. If this was a Celtics team of the past that didn't have this leadership core and somehow made it to the finals, I'd be saying Warriors in 4 or 5. Yeah,
it might be very quick unless Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown took that massive leap that it's obviously very tough to do in a one playoff series, let alone an entire season, backwards, an entire season, let alone one playoff series. But yeah, I think Al Horford's going to be a huge, again, doesn't have any finals experience, but obviously he's a guy the Celtics can rally around. Again, we talked about in the Heat series when he wasn't out there and the Celtics had their collapses, he's a guy that you look towards just to try to calm guys down. I think he's going to try to fill that role again in this series, and they're probably going to need it more than ever because, like you said, Golden State's a team that, the Celtics can come out and maybe they, drop a 30 spot on one in the first quarter and they're up 30-15, and Golden State struggles out of the gate. Looking at the stats, I don't have in the outline. I heard it today. Golden State's been the best, I think, scoring team in the fourth quarter of the playoffs. So they're a team that at any time can, like a light switch, turn it on, shoot the lights out. And if that happens, and the Celtics are trying to play catch up or trying to keep a lead and they start to maybe struggle a little bit, like you said, maybe turn the ball over a little bit too much, having Al Horford there is obviously going to be huge to try to combat that. But then again, like you said, Draymond Green is pretty much the same thing to a lesser offensive ability than Al Horford is. But he's another guy that Golden State, if they, for whatever reason, may start to struggle or may look a little overwhelmed, then he's a guy they can go to and he'll calm things down too. So that's what's so great and also so confusing to try to predict this series, because it's two teams that are very similar from just obviously a skill set, from, again, not like a leadership quality, but two very similar play style teams. Obviously, they're two teams that get out and, want to get out and run the ball. Golden State, obviously, they're different. And if they get out and run, they're willing to pull up from three and obviously drain that it's no problem. Obviously, the Celtics are a much more physical team, it would appear. I don't think Golden State likes I mean, I don't think Steph or Clay like to play physical, so maybe the Celtics have them there. But that's what I mean. It's such an interesting and strange series to game plan for, because like you want to look at the experience factor and say, okay, well, Golden State, it's a landslide. They'll win this series easy. But then you, like you said, you have Jason Tatum, who was ascended to a superstar. You have Jaylen Brown, who at times has been the Celtics' best player on the floor, especially early in these playoffs. So he's a guy that you can seemingly rely on too. He's a king, like you said. Yep. But it's going to be a fun series, because I feel like it's going to be more unpredictable than this previous series with the Heat was rather.
Yeah, the potential too, just for like the big time plays, like the fast breaks, the big time threes, and it's just sky high in this series, and that's what the NBA sure is celebrating about for ratings. They're super excited. I think unless we have any other storylines to monitor going in, like just talking about a few more things before we get to predictions, I think we can just do just that, get to predictions and some stuff.
Yeah, the only other one quick thing I didn't, because we didn't mention him, is obviously didn't talk about it in the Heat game, but Rob Williams did not look like he was 100. I mean, he hasn't been 100% all playoffs. But game 7 of that Heat series was the first time we really were out there. And I said it watching the game, like he cannot be on the court because he's a liability. So that's the big thing. Obviously with the extra days off, there's 3 days off in between games 1, 2, and 3. And then I think it goes back to just regular 2 games off. But that's a huge thing, because again, looking at the team, I mean, I like Kevin Looney, who they have as their starting center, and Jonathan Kuminga comes off the bench, 6'9" and 6'7" respectively for those guys. I don't know if they have a guy that can defend Rob Williams. Like, again, it comes down to the physicality thing, and obviously the Celtics, I think, can out physical anyone in the league. Rob Williams is going to be a huge factor in this series. I think if he's healthy, Golden State is probably in trouble, because like I said, I don't think they have a guy. Maybe Draymond, they put him on Rob, and maybe he shows you something, or maybe just he tries to pester Rob and becomes a pain in the ass like Draymond can be, and he gets under his skin that way. But if Rob Williams is healthy, like that obviously factors into how the Celtics want to run their offense. It gives them more of, like I said, a lob weapon that Golden State might not be able to stop or have a guy to stop. And then on the defensive end as well, like obviously Golden State's a great perimeter scoring team, so they're going to look to do that primarily. But maybe having Rob Williams in the middle, and obviously they're a team that will drive and kick too, with guys like Wiggins and Draymond. Maybe having Rob Williams in the middle of that will cut down on the desire to drive and kick, and then obviously maybe we'll cut down on open shots from Steph and Klay Thompson. But Golden State's not healthy either. They're missing Andre Iguodala, has not played since game 4 of the series against Denver. Otto Porter Jr., who's been a good piece for them, he has not played since game 3 of the Western Conference Finals versus Dallas. And I believe it's Gary Payton II. He has not played since game 2 of the series against Memphis. So all guys that have factored into this run for Golden State, they are. I think Gary Payton is going to be a game time decision. I thought I saw that today. But Golden State's got some pretty big injuries as well. Porter's a nice piece off the bench. Iguodala, another guy obviously that has plenty of postseason success, won in the Finals MVP with Golden State. Another guy kind of like Al Horford that they might look to for leadership. If he's not out there, that's a guy that obviously has hurt the Celtics in the past and could be a big factor as well.
Yeah, and I'm kind of losing my train of thought here, but I think what I was going for was just this thought before I forgot about it, about this note I found on Twitter. That could be a good omen for the Celtics. Could just be nothing. That the team that eliminates Jimmy Butler has gone on to win the last 3 NBA Finals. Yeah,
that is crazy. I did not know that, but then again, looking it up just to go deeper into it, that those teams, if people were curious, Toronto in 2019, when Butler was on Philadelphia, in the conference semifinals. 2020, the Lakers obviously beat them in the finals. The Miami Heat, of course, and then 2021, Milwaukee beat the Heat in the first round. So there is definitely some merit to that. Obviously, hopefully the Celtics can jump on that trend as well.
Yeah, I think I actually just remembered the point I was going to make. I don't have a real outright reason outside of, the trend we've had, but I kind of feel like this is going to be a game where we're kind of guessing whether Smart or Williams are going to be playing.
Yeah, I think they're both. I
love that, but it's just kind of where we've been at for a little while now.
Mm-hmm. I think Ime said from whenever, I can't remember how many games back in the Heat. I think it was the Heat series. Maybe it was Milwaukee. He said it, but he flat out admitted that Rob Williams is going to be day to day through the rest of the playoffs. I don't know if he gave any sort of update on Smart, but
yeah, they like Ime Udoka even said like when they were talking in the locker room after the game, like Rob playing through pain, like shout out to Rob. So that just like confirms any like people like, oh, maybe Rob's starting to get better, or like, you know, what we saw later in the series, like, oh,
still laboring.
You know, maybe at times like earlier in the series, like, okay, like maybe Rob's like gonna snap out of this at some point a little bit, but when we saw later in the series, it doesn't look that way. He looks a little hampered.
Nope.
At least it gives that like firm. It's not a good thing because it's relating to an, you know, injury status, but it gives that firmness. Like, okay, we're gonna have to deal with this. You know, we're not gonna have to guess.
They know.
Time. Yeah, which is good. I can take some comfort in that, even though, you know, it's relating to an injury, like I said, but it's better than just guessing every day. But yeah, man, I'm confident overall as, you know, we get into predictions. Look, I agree with the point you made in the outline here. You know, if the series goes to 7, Golden State will win. I do think that's very likely, but I'm not doubting the Celtics.
It's just something in your gut's telling you to go against that.
I'm not. I just like, I can't do it. Something in my gut wants me to, but the overwhelming portion of said gut
says go against me.
Says the Celtics the balls. So, you
know.
I'm going Celtics in 7, and that might be absolutely crazy to some people, given, you know, Golden State's pedigree and championships, and, you know,
Game 7 would be in Golden State as well.
Game 7 in Golden State.
Yep.
But I'm not betting against the Celtics. You know, no matter where it goes, if it's 6 or 7, I don't think it's going to be 5.
No chance.
I think they're going to do it. I think they're going to do it. I was bored, you know, when we started the playoffs, and I said Celtics lose to the Suns. I think it's 6 or 7. I think it was 6. I was like, I wasn't at the point I'm at right now. And even against a team like Golden State, I'm feeling pretty confident that the Celtics are going to pull this off.
I mean, they've given you.
I can't say 100%, you know, against a team like Golden State, but I'm fairly confident the Celtics are going to find a way to pull this out.
All I was going to say is they've given you every reason to believe that. I mean, because we've talked about it plenty, that every time they have a stinker game or they come out like they're not supposed to, they bounce back. They've been phenomenal on the road. I mean, they said it themselves in the post-game locker room celebration. You know, they're road warriors because they've gone out and won on the road pretty much every game except for a couple. But I just, again, like real quick too about, I've been having this discussion with friends of mine because nobody knew who started this series and where they started, if it was in Golden State or if it was in Boston because of the standings and the records and stuff. The fact that the Celtics had a better finish in the standings, but Golden State had, I think, 2 more wins, so they get the home court advantage. I don't know if you feel the same way I do. That's kind of stupid. Because the Celtics, I mean, you really, like, to me, that's you finish second in the conference, and in the end, and when it matters most in the finals, you don't get rewarded with the home court advantage. I just find that a little ridiculous. I don't know, like I said, if I'm nitpicking here, if you kind of indifferent to that, or.
So you said they had 2 more wins than Golden State?
No, Golden State. I kind of muddied that up. Golden State, I think.
I kind of got lost. I don't know. Like my brain kind of shut down for.
It's all right. We're doing a lot of talking. I think I'm rambling. No, Golden State, I think they finished with 2 more wins than the Celtics did, but Golden State finished 3rd in their conference, and Boston obviously finished 2nd in the East. But because Golden State had more wins, they end up with home court advantage in the finals, which to me doesn't make a lot of sense. Like, you're kind of prioritizing. I mean, obviously in your own conference, you're prioritizing the standings in your seeding, but then when you get to the biggest stage, like, to me at least, I feel like it would make more sense to just, if you're the 2 seed or if you're the 3 seed, the 2 seed gets like, if it's 2 1 seeds going at it, then you factor in the record of, okay, which 1 seed had the better record, and then but I don't know. I found it weird.
Yeah, I'm not really like on either side super like strongly, but I don't know. I'm kind of like indifferent, but obviously home court advantage is a huge thing. I'm not like downplaying home court advantage, but like, I don't know, I guess there's some rationale to support, you know, how it's set up. So it's not like I'm not going to get super pissed about it, but just a breakdown of my prediction too, before we get to a little bit more on yours. I have the Celtics winning games 2, 3, 5, and 7 and losing 1, 4, and 6.
All right. We're going back and forth then. Nobody's winning 2 games in a row, it would appear.
Hey,
no, you had the Celtics 2 and 3. You have them winning.
hey man, last round, you had 6, I had 7,
Mm-hmm.
and it worked out. Let's just hope to do that again.
Yep.
Knock on wood.
Yeah. I mean,
I'm keeping the
again,
faith.
yep. I mean, I don't have the Celtics in 6 because like I said, I think these are two very even teams. So it's not like I'm like, oh, the Celtics are just going to blow doors off of Golden State and they're going to win in 6. I think, like we've talked about before, I'm putting a lot of merit in the fact that Golden State has been here, knows what it takes to win. And obviously, like I said, they have home court advantage. I would have to assume Golden State has become one of, if not the most hostile places to play in the NBA with, again, how rowdy their fans are going to be in the playoffs. Because, again, they know what it takes to win at this time of year. Fans are expecting it when they get to this spot. And we talked about it enough throughout the playoffs. The Celtics have had plenty of chances to close games out when they should, and they haven't. They've taken their foot off the gas pedal at times. And like I said at the start of this is a series where you cannot afford to do that because you are going to lose if that's the case. So while I like your pick of Celtics in 7, like you said, if it goes 7 games, I just think it's going to be Golden State because, again, of all the factors I've already mentioned. So I have the Celtics in 6. I think they'll get a chance to close things out at home. And again, they'd be dumb not to, because if they don't, I don't think it's going to end well. As great as they've been on the road, I just don't think, again, it's going to come down to like experience and everything. So I have them shocking the world maybe and winning game 1 in Golden State. I think the extended layoff for the Warriors is going to have them come out a little rusty. Celtics might be able to steal one on the road. Golden State evens things up in game 2. Celtics win the first game at the Garden in game 3. Golden State wins game 4. And then the Celtics, they steal game 5 on the road. Again, get the momentum coming back home. Ime Udoka drills it into their head that, hey, we've been in this spot before last series. You guys couldn't close it out. Put our destiny in our own hands, all that type of rah-rah stuff. Go out at home and close us out. I mean, you heard Tatum and everyone talk about it too. I think it was Tatum. It might have been Brown. But they talked about, they obviously had the opportunity and wanted to close out the Eastern Conference Finals at home. They were upset they couldn't do that in front of their home fans. If they get that opportunity again, I don't think they're going to let slip through their fingers. Like, they have to know in the back of their minds, like, we can't screw this chance up again if we get it. So for that reason, Celtics in 6, I think they will knock off the Golden State Warriors and make them a finals loser for something they don't obviously know too much about with how successful they've been. Hope and pray,
PVO. Mm-hmm. That's where I'm at. That's where I've been the whole playoff series, our whole playoff run, rather.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going against them. I just can't do it.
You can say at this point you can't. So like,
I just can't. I want another championship too. Can't lie.
We need one. Everyone's been talking. There's been a 2-year drought. Like, I know, right? It makes us come off as spoiled a-holes when you make a comment like that, but it's true.
Parades are fun. Mm-hmm. Let me tell you.
Nope.
Yeah, man. I'm not betting against this team. That's what it comes back to.
Nope.
I'm not doing it. I like the defensive depth we have over them. We got enough scoring talent.
Yep.
Coaching, I mean, like, he's willed them this far. Udoka, I think can go toe to toe with Kerr and the Warriors coaching staff.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they can pull it out. I have no, do I think the Warriors could win? Definitely, but I have no doubts in the Celtics' ability to shock the world and knock off the Warriors.
You've come this far.
It does happen.
Yep.
It's exciting, man. It's like
it is.
It hasn't fully sunk in for me yet, which is really weird. Like, I'm just like, I think you have to be in a mindset with a certain team, and not as like the biggest Celtics fan in the past. Like, I root for the Celtics, but I'm not as diehard as the average fan.
Mm-hmm.
It's not gonna like set in officially until game 1.
Yeah.
Yep. It's not. And I'm gonna be like, okay, like, we're really here. Like, let's do it. Like, this is gonna be sick. This is gonna be a lot of fun, win or lose. Unless they were to lose in epic fashion.
Yeah, it wouldn't be. Well, that's the thing too. Really quick before I meant to ask you this question a little earlier. But it has come up from some people. And I guess it has to be asked. I don't think it really does, but people are talking about it. If they get, they're obviously here, so not if they get to the finals, but if they lose the NBA finals, would you consider this season a failure?
No.
I wouldn't either, which again is why I was surprised people were discussing this, because obviously where they were in December, they were 11th in the Eastern Conference and no one was sniffing a playoff berth and everyone was discussing blowing this team up. And is Ime Udoka the right guy? Can Jason and Jalen play together? So the fact that this goes into my point of wanting to win it too. Like, you've come this far, you faced pretty much every adversity except maybe a season-ending injury, which people obviously thought was going to happen with Rob Williams, and it didn't. So you overcame that too. Like you've overcome every obstacle except for this last one, and obviously the champs that have been here before. Like exactly, knock on wood. Yep, true, good point. But that's what, like the point I'm trying to make is you've overcome everything. So if you come out here and obviously like just go out and win it, like there's no other really way around it. Like,
yeah, if this is nothing against the Mavericks, but like if say you were to play the Mavericks and you lost the Mavericks, like
yeah, there'd be more of a
honest,
sour
like,
taste. Yep.
Luka is crazy good, and the
He's
Mavericks
that whole team though
are more like a little, they have some depth around him, but it doesn't seem spectacular from what I've gathered.
There's a couple guys, but mainly him.
If you were to lose to like the Mavericks, there's more of a case for it to be a failure. But
there's more of a sting where it's like
you're losing to the Warriors, like the team you could least consider a failure possible in the West.
Yep.
Like, obviously, this is saying this in a year. I'm saying this in a year where the LeBron James led Lakers didn't make the playoffs. But yeah, I mean, you're losing to the best. Like, it's not like the Mavericks snuck their way through this series or through the Western Conference Finals, whatever. But no, it's not a failure if they lose. It's just, it's not. They've accomplished so much. They've grown so much.
That's the big thing too, is that a lot of people, like, that's kind of something you have to take a step back and realize, like, obviously, again, the growth of Tatum, like I said, into a legitimate superstar, the growth of Brown to being a guy that is right on the cusp of that. I mean, the growth of, again, that we talked about before, the growth of Marcus Smart to, be the ball handler. And like you said, the defense first guy that we expected him and want him to be. And then obviously even the growth of Rob Williams to turn into an elite defensive presence. Like, I don't think anybody saw that coming this season. He had a great year last year, but I don't think anyone expected him to take the leap he did this year. You could go down the list. The emergence of Grant Williams, who was a guy that I think a lot of people wanted to write off as one of the better 3-point shooters and one of the better, bench assets on this team. Like, there's a lot, again, that has gone right for this team this season after so much went wrong, which again it's just crazy to think of. We're in the same season that we were a couple months ago with how bad this team was, but everything is pointing in the Celtics direction, except maybe obviously for the opponent. And again, the experience that they have. So it's going to be a big test, but hopefully they can, like I said, buck some trends that they've fallen into and overcome more adversity as they've done all season and bring home a legitimate banner to overtake the Lakers again for the most in NBA history.
Yep. PBO, keep the faith. Banner 18. Banner 18.
Banner 18.
Banner 18. Ready to roll. Bruins. Some tough news, but also somewhat good news.
Some understandable news, I think.
Brad Marchand is not waiting to get his hip surgery. He will be out until sometime in November, which sucks, but multiple hip surgeries, it's better than to wait, get it as young as possible. Like,
yep, I think so.
You don't want this to, be a problem next year you have to worry about throughout the season. And, if you're Marchand, you're slowing down through the season, you have another injury that comes up and then you have to do a hip surgery and that. Like, it's brutal. I like them getting it out of the way. Luckily with the current structure of the team, Taylor Hall can step up.
That's true. Yep.
Anyone else they might bring in on the left wing, who knows? If Jake DeBrusk sticks around, but I don't know if that's going to happen, so I'm not going to count on that. But he went through the successful arthroscopy and labor repair on both hips. The procedure was done by Dr. Brian Kelly at the hospital for special surgery in New York. So, speedy recovery, best recovery possible, because it's not going to be speedy. It's a long time. But for Brad Marchand, hopefully he can, be his normal self when he comes back. For any player, especially in hockey where you use, that low part of your lower body so much to generate power in your skating stride and, agility and stuff like that and turning, it can be a tough injury. So we'll see how Marchand comes back from it. I'm optimistic because the guy is just a psycho competitor. So we'll see how it goes, but best wishes to him.
With the timing of this, do you think he knows something we don't? Because you and I discussed this when the possibility of a surgery first came out, and we said, do you wait to see what Bergeron does? Do you stick it out if Bergeron comes back? And that's why we were like, why would you push off this type of injury? Because like we said, I mean, he was it seemed like not gung ho, but like we said, we had a discussion that he seemed like he wanted to, if he could, push it off for a year. And we were like, why would you do that? Like you just mentioned, like it's a hip surgery. It's pretty serious. Like you might risk another injury. So just sitting here now, I'm like, the timing's a little now, obviously the Pastrnak stuff or the Krejci stuff comes out. That's got people speculating with Pastrnak, if maybe he's going to come back. I don't know if maybe Brad Marchand knows something.
The thing that we didn't even mention is like the hip could slow him down if he didn't get the surgery. Like,
that's true too.
The season, like he'd just be like, oh, Marchand every time he struggles, but oh, Marchand looks hurt, which that could happen too due to the recovery. You know, him like getting used to it. You know, when Charlie Coyle got his surgery after last season, like, you know, is he going to return to form? What's going to happen with him? Much different injury here, but injuries since it's both hips, but you know,
that has to be so painful.
Oh, dude,
one hip I can't imagine is fun to get both of them at the same time.
I really hope my hips hold up because it does not sound fun. But yeah, maybe he knows something about Krejci and or Bergeron.
Should we say Bergeron would be?
Look, I mean, I'm not expecting Bergeron to have his mind made up, but I imagine at this point in the process, he's at least talked to Marchand a little bit in particular about it. You know, maybe just, you know, they're catching up. Oh, FaceTime's like, oh, hey, Bergie, what's up? Oh, yeah, by the way, like, what are you doing next year?
Yeah, exactly. Are you coming back? What's up? What's the deal?
You know, you can trust me. I'm your boy. I don't know, man.
Well, I was talking to my grandfather about it today, and we kind of had the same thing. It's like, wouldn't you? I feel like at this point, like if he was gonna, no, I'm not. Again, I'm not. Obviously, it's just speculating here. Don't know anything, but like if Bergeron was gonna retire and like knew he was going to, wouldn't you think like that? Like that would have come out by now. Like there would have been some rumblings that like Bergeron is, you know, is gonna walk away. Like I mean, I don't know how much longer you need to. Because he's had a decent amount of time that I feel like maybe he needs more, but. Again, I don't want to rush his decision or anything, but okay. Until everything is done and
the very minimum.
Gotcha.
I think he'll announce it before free agency. I don't think he's gonna, you know,
he's not gonna pull a Krejci and leave him.
Like we said last week, it's not a bad thing that Krejci did this, but he did take his time, and the Bruins might have been able to replace him more adequately if they had done sooner.
Had handcuffed him, I think was what
a little bit. You know, but Krejci's not the type of guy, you know, to
exactly
for that.
Yep.
Yeah, we still do respect, you know, what he had to do to make his decision comfortably. Speaking of Krejci,
part 2 of will he or won't he?
Pastrnak giving fans the speculation they need to have something to talk about in the offseason. Because, like, let me tell you, look, I'm buying into this. I am.
Are you? Okay.
A little bit, not 100%, but like, Krejci did not say no.
You think he wasn't just being an ass though, and like, I'm gonna give, like you said, people something to speculate, ruffle some tail feathers here. He doesn't strike me as that type of person, but I mean, if he wanted,
maybe
everybody
if he was on Twitter, maybe if he was like Brad Marchand doing this, like a big social media presence, he'd do it to mess with people.
Everyone could be an a-hole once in a while. It's not that hard.
Yeah, but
he wanted to just be a goofball, a little prankster.
He's like the most noble, one of the most noble people on earth. Look, the smirk, it's kind of like, yeah, maybe not. Sort of like, yeah, maybe I'll just goof around and come back. Maybe I'll just make my return. It was cool to go home for a year, but I'm down to come back if you need me. If you have room for me, and you put me with Paul and Pasta finally. Yeah, man, I don't know. I'm not ruling it out. Okay. I think there are people out here like, no, Krejci, no chance coming back. Like, it's just not true. Like, it's just not.
I wouldn't say there's no chance, but I feel like I'm more. There's looking at it on the big picture thing, and I was talking about my grandfather with this today too. It's like, does he really like? The big thing for me is do you want to like re-up your family or whatever it is, reroute, or you know what I mean? Like move your family back.
It's a location they're familiar with.
Okay, so, but I'm just like saying like the travel back and forth of like now we're gonna have to move back again after like
that's the thing.
The toll of that is kind of where I'm at. Like, do you really want to go through that and put your family through that again? I get that it's obviously a place they're plenty comfortable with.
See, the thing is, I don't think this is worth speculating on too much, but maybe I wonder a little bit if Krejci had in mind from the start, like, okay, I'll go back for 1 year, just
test the waters
chill,
and then
enjoy, playing in front of the Czech fans. I imagine was very cool for him. With the World Championships now, it looks like he had an absolute blast.
Yeah,
he got a medal. Bronze isn't the most glamorous one, but he got a medal, and They're, the videos that came out of them, like Jansen in the locker room, like he's hanging out with Pasternak and the boys, going like, think they went on like a beer tour before that video was posted. He can say like, yeah, like in the back of his head, I'm sure he knows what his importance is to the team. I'm not saying this is the plan from the start, but I just wonder. Maybe he just wanted to do 1 year, then come back. People are like, oh, he's 36 now. Like, so is Bergeron. And Bergeron might retire, but like, and Bergeron's doing fine. And
exactly. There was no drop off in his play.
At a lower level league was very good. But like, look, if Krejci comes back, I'm fully expecting minimum 50, 55 points. Like, I think that's a lock.
He sures up problems too.
He looked good in the World Championships too. He looked loose, like he looked confident. He was letting it rip a little bit. He's letting that slap shot rip. He was, he had that connection with Pasta. And like, look, Pasta's kind of like a goofy guy. Like Pasta can like joke around, keep it light. Like, hey, like, I know what you said like earlier in the year about like wanting to play with me and Hall. Like, why couldn't I have done that? Like, I'm sure Donnie and Bruce can, or whoever ends up being the coach, can fire him. Can
if they make the mistake. Yeah.
I mean, like, there's no reason. That's another thing too. There's no reason to not accommodate that desire.
Absolutely.
Yep. Like, that's gonna be, if Krejci wants to come back, I imagine he will put that on the table. He'll be like, I want to play with Hall and Krejci.
Yeah, I was gonna say it. Pasternak. Yeah, I was gonna say it. It helps you out in a lot. I mean, it's obviously helps you out in a lot of ways. Hollow was decent on that second line of more than decent. It was more than what we expected on that second line. I mean, it didn't work towards the end. That second power play at times was atrocious. Like putting Krejci back in the middle of that would, help shore that up a little bit.
He's just like, he's so smart when he's a forward, but when he's in that power play role, like towards the blue line, it feels like he's an actual wizard. Like he sits there and he's so methodical. He slows things down. And it's almost like everything kind of like freezes and slows down around him. Like he's got this zone he gets in, and just like this aura that you can like feel through the TV screen that comes off him. Like nobody wants to mess with him when he has that puck towards the inside of the blue line. It's weird. It's like something I've never really seen from a player in the NHL. Quite like Krejci, because Krejci's just got this very calming demeanor, this like methodical style. And at this point, I think there just have to be at least discussions that take place. Like
it can't hurt. I mean,
Sweeney tests the waters, and he's talked about it in the past. In breakup day, there has to be. You have to try and make some momentum towards this, and it's the tough thing too is the salary cap.
That's my one concern as well.
I'm gonna put this out there, even though I don't think it's super realistic. But I sent this to you earlier. Just one little creative way I put together. Not going to go like super in depth on it, but I put this together on Cap Friendly, their armchair GM, and the way I think is most realistic, given DeBrusk's trade request and the potential for Mike Riley being moved, is luckily with Forbert's got no trade protection, but Mike Riley doesn't, so you can trade him anywhere. He wasn't happy when Lindholm's addition bumped him out of the lineup. I think he's got to be the guy that moves, especially with Grizzlies, off-season status with the injuries. I think Arizona was one of the teams that first expressed interest in Jake DeBrusk when he requested that trade. I don't know where their interest is at currently. But Arizona's got 3 first-round picks, and, they got lots of picks. They're rebuilding. You might say, they want to keep those top assets. But I don't imagine Arizona is going to use every single one of these high tier picks. They could use pretty much all the first and seconds in particular, but look, if you can trade one of their 3 first round picks this year, which I think in this case would be Colorado's. They got the Darcy Kemper trade. You can make a deal work around DeBrusk and or Mike Riley. And I think Mike Riley would be a fine addition to their left side, especially because, they could revisit trading Jacob Chikrin. They could end up getting a left defenseman back in that deal. But, if you trade Chikrin for whoever, you have, maybe you don't get a left-handed defenseman back. You have Janice Moser, who was a 2020 draft pick that came kind of out of nowhere as like an overager, I think, in Europe, that came in and played pretty well for them. So I think he's a part of their mix on the left side. They got Shane Gostisbehere, Kyle Capobianco is like an extra. I feel like there's one name I'm forgetting. Not super important, but Mike Riley, they could find room for him, and he can, I think, in a certain situation, play off the right side. One thing I just put out there, I'm prefacing this because some people might come at me for it.
Lose their minds.
It's hypothetical. It's just a hypothetical. Trading DeBrusque and Riley to Arizona for, I think they could just go any prospect here, but I threw Carson Bantle from University of Wisconsin, just wrapped up his freshman season. I think it'd be a decent throw-in prospect. And it's a guy like, I think in a deal like this, Arizona can afford to give up a prospect because they have so many picks. Like they're not going to have room for every single prospect.
Yeah, so you're running out of space.
That's not at the top tier of their list, even though, they're looking to build. They don't have like the greatest prospect core out there. I think they could afford to give up like a lower level prospect like Bantle, just like a throw in, because you are getting two valuable assets. And then I have the Bruins in the deal acquiring Colorado's first this year to get back into the first round, which could, if Colorado wins, end up being the 32nd pick, but still first round pick, and just a 2023 6th round pick, which could even be a higher pick, just as another sweetener. But look, I think something around that framework is realistic. Will it happen? Probably not, because these things are just so hard to predict. But I think that's like not like a bad return for the Bruins. And ideally, you'd want to get more than a 6th. Maybe you get like a 5th or a 4th there, but I don't know, just throwing out an idea. And then this scenario would also involve bringing Krejci back, signing Bergeron. The dollar amounts is not super important here, but I gave Bergeron $5 million and Krejci $4.5 on 1-year deals just to make it work and just to not overthink it. And then, that's your top two centers, and that's like an ideal situation for me. Then on defense, you got a normal defensive core that we've come to expect, with Zaboral, who will be rotating in on the third pair, maybe the second pair a little bit. And yeah, I mean, do whatever you want with the rest. I just put as a placeholder like Craig Smith on the first line, because I think that could be a good way to wake him up, at least at the start of the season. I think Oscar Steen's going to absolutely be in the mix in that new one-way deal. I think they expect him to stick. And yeah, Mark McLaughlin on the fourth line. I put Eric Howell on the fourth line. Look, I don't think Nick Foligno is going anywhere. So I put Nick Foligno in there. I don't think Sweeney's going to want to dump another pick or a prospect with a bad contract to get maybe a team like Arizona to take it. Probably a team like Arizona or Seattle. But
what do you want to do that to Foligno too is the thing. Like
I think they're just going to ride it out with Foligno.
Yeah.
And if they somehow suck, they're going to trade him at the deadline at like half retained. But that's way too far down the line. But in terms of an easy way to alleviate cap, buying him out makes sense. But I think Bergeron's recruiting of him. This could be different if Bergeron retires. They could be like, all right, like this is an easy way to get rid of cap.
Clean house. Yeah.
Just get rid of Foligno, give him a chance somewhere else. Look, I'm sure Foligno would be like super pissed if he got bought out. He's enough of a mature guy. Like, I don't think he'd make a scene of it. But I think they're going to try and give him a bounce back opportunity, because I mean, like, I say this kind of as a joke, but like, I expected Nick Foligno to be good last year after that season opener where he had a point, that line he was on was good. I was like, okay, maybe Nick Foligno, like, I doubted the signing a little bit, but maybe I'll give him a little leeway. But yeah, I'm just doing a little speculation here because it's speculation season, of course. But yeah, I don't know. I'm looking at Arizona as a Jake DeBrusque location, because I do think, whether they're attaching a prospect to a Jake DeBrusque deal to get that first, or they can get one just straight up if Arizona likes him enough. I think it's going to make sense for Arizona at certain points tactically to use some of these picks to accelerate things a little bit, because you don't want to use every pick here. You don't. You have a lot of picks. It gives you darts to throw at the dartboard, and of course the top assets. It's a little more of a sure thing potentially, like first and second round picks, but you just can't use all those picks. And maybe they don't want to. Maybe they don't want to trade their 3 first. Maybe they like having 3 first this year. But if I'm them, I'm trading a first this year instead of next year, because next year's draft is looking to be stellar. Especially at the top, but stellar. It looks like the depth overall is probably going to be better, but it is very early. I'm just saying, I'm putting it out there. That could be a way they accommodate David Krejci cap space wise. There's a lot of options. You could trade Craig Smith. DeBrusque, Riley, whatever, if they go in a trade together or separate trades, they can do this. They can make it happen, whether it's Krejci and Bergeron or just Krejci, just Bergeron. They can make it happen. They can soften the blow if Bergeron goes or increase, their contender status and what, could be Bergeron's last year if he decides to play one more year that you're going into. It also just gives you more of an opportunity to find the next Bergeron because Sweeney has acknowledged that it's a multiple-year process. Obviously, if you have Bergeron, if you have Bergeron and Krejci, it puts less pressure on Charlie Coyle. Any centers that have to, step up, and it just gives you more stability for another year to where you don't have to go right into the rebuild. Lets certain guys marinate in Providence and so on and so forth. Any trickle-down effect, but. Rambling over, one thing to settle on with the Krejci thing, we like to do percentages here. I'm 30-70 on Krejci coming back. I'm 30 on yes, 70 on no. Where would you say you were at?
Probably 20-80.
Okay, that's fair.
I want to believe there's something that to the Pastrnak video and everything. And like you said, Krejci not saying no, but then again, I look at the outside factors and again, maybe I'm reading too much into it, but again, like you said, 36, he's not that old, but 36, does he want to, again, move his family back, have to bring everything back? The thing for me that makes it interesting is if Bergeron does, and maybe Krejci won't want to come back if Bergeron retires, but if Bergeron retires and you get a announcement on that pretty early, could the Bruins entice him coming back and being Krejci now to be like, hey, now we desperately need a first line center. Could you come back for a year or two to man that while we find the next second? I mean, it's probably going to be easier to find a second line center than it would be to find a first line center sooner rather than later.
Bridge the gap.
Exactly. So,
and the idea of playing with Marchand, which he hasn't really done that much in, maybe in broken shifts or them switching things up.
Yeah.
He doesn't have a lot of consistent experience with Marchand at all. Marchand, Krejci, Pastrnak could be a ridiculous line. Very formidable line. Not to say he's a lower end Bergeron to diminish Krejci's skills, but there are similar players, but Bergeron is just on another level. And I'm sure Krejci would probably admit that.
Yep.
And there's other ways, and I'm very cool with this outside of this idea happening, outside of the obvious having Krejci back, having the two-headed monster. But I would love to avoid a scenario where Don Sweeney thinks, okay, I gotta go out and get somebody long term and signs Ryan Strome to a 6-year deal.
Yeah, make a desperation bad move. Yeah.
I like Ryan Strome, I do, but it's just we don't need another contract like that can blow up.
I was just gonna say that would be fitting for a little bit. Yeah, that would be a fitting Don Sweeney move, though. In all honesty,
and that type of thing is hopefully not likely because you have to leave future cap space available for the hopeful extension of David Pastrnak.
That's right.
Keep that in mind. McAvoy's money's going up. Lindholm's money's going up. Zaborli gets a little bit of a raise if you want a nickel and dime and a little bit the smaller dollar amounts. Oscar Steen makes $9,167 less, so that's huge.
That's good. I was gonna ask, I might be looking way too far ahead because I know he's still on a rookie deal, but how long do you have until Swayman's contract is up? Are you in a good
after this upcoming season?
Okay, so you kind of have you have him to look for. I thought he was longer on the books for then, so that makes that more difficult too.
The good thing we've kind of touched on in the past with the Bruins is, if Foligno is around through the end of next season, he's off the books. Howell is off the books. Nosik's off the books.
Okay, so you'll have flexibility.
3.1 for Smith. 2 whatever the fuck Howell makes.
1 and change maybe. Yeah.
I don't know how I'm forgetting. I should know this, but I'll check right now. Howell makes 2.375. I thought it was 2.275, or I thought 1 at 1.275 at one point, but knew that wasn't right.
That'd be a bargain.
Yeah, and then Nosek makes 1.75 or 1.25. So that's a good chunk of money off that, that gives you right enough to accommodate. Hopefully, it ends up being 10 million for Pastrnak. Maybe they still won't get under 10.
That'd be
I
good.
doubt it, but look, I'm going to be shocked if Pastrnak makes less than $10 million because they can't just get these bargain contracts every time.
No.
Maybe they can, but
I mean, you have to be pretty damn lucky to be able to do that, though.
Or it goes back to the thing. Like, I don't play for money. Like,
yeah, that's true. We did have that discussion.
$5 million a year, signed, sealed, and delivered.
There you go.
8 years, 8 and 40.
Pull a red sock and piss off a homegrown guy.
Or just get him to take it because he doesn't care about the money that much, and he wants to help the team win championships.
Mm-hmm. Got to start getting on that, though.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't expect that to get into speculation season as much, but it was bound to happen at some point in the next few episodes. So a little bit of speculation for the people. Get the the gears turning in the brains. Speaking of Pastrnak and Krejci, as we have been. First off, Pastrnak, Krejci, and Hurdle together still hurts me. I really wanted Tomas Hurdle here, and I really wanted him long term. We wouldn't even be talking about the number 2 center thing, number 1 center thing to replace Bergeron. Maybe Hurdle's that guy right away.
Nope.
Probably is. In the hypothetical scenario, it just hurts. I would have loved to see Hurdle with Pastrnak. It would have been completely sick. Awesome to see for the Czech team to win bronze at the World Championships, but sucks they had to beat USA to do it.
Yeah,
USA loses 8-4 in this game. I didn't watch the game. I just kind of forgot it was on. I wasn't super into the World Championships that much. Followed it a little bit. Followed my boy Slavkovsky that I talked about last week, turning into a monster. Got to be the consent, like the number 1 choice, the second overall pick now. So Swayman and the U.S. lose in the bronze medal game. Pastrnak and Krejci went off, though, in the tournament. Pastrnak played a little less games, but had just 2 less points than Krejci. Pastrnak 7 games, 7 goals, 3 assists, 10 points, and Krejci 10 games, 3 goals, 9 assists, 12 points. Joakim Nordstrom played for Team Sweden. He had 2 goals and assists in 8 games. Good for Nordy. I wonder if he lands back in the NHL because it doesn't seem like he wants to go back to the KHL. Reasonably so.
Can't say I blame him.
KHL. Side note. Alexander Radulov is reportedly, as of yesterday, going to the KHL. Had a tough year, and he's just like, screw this, I'm out. And he's 35.
All right.
Down. So
power to him.
I don't think if that has officially been confirmed by anyone yet. I haven't really checked since seeing it last night, but interesting UFA off the market. Even though on a down season, I think some team would have taken a chance on him. He had 4 goals and 18 assists all of a sudden, which was really strange in a year where Ben and Sagan struggled for a lot of the season as well. It was a weird year for the Stars, but Radulov said, screw it, I'm going back to Russia. So that was interesting. I feel like that kind of flew under the radar, so I kind of brought it up in case anybody didn't see that. I don't know if I think it was Akbar's Kazan in the KHL he signed with. I don't know if they've confirmed that, but we'll see. I guess maybe it'll come out in the coming days. Jeremy Swayman finishes the World Championships with a 4-3 record, a 2.33 goals against average, which was magnified by the loss.
7 goals.
Peters said he had like a 941 save percentage going into the game, which is ridiculous. Which would have been at 6 games. He finished with a 910, so that kind of hurt him. But doesn't worry me about Swayman. This is great experience, a great experience for him personally, going to represent Team USA again as he's done in the World Juniors in the past, and just hockey experience. It's good. It just with more reps, it's a different type of environment.
Yep.
Love it. Meeting some new guys, playing against his buddy Linus Ullmark, who finished with a 1-2 record, a 2.26 goals against, and a 920 save percentage. Unfortunately, was on the receiving end of Adam Gaudette, who had a great tournament. Braintree kid scored the overtime winner to eliminate. I don't remember if that eliminated Sweden. Like I said, I didn't follow the World Championship super closely this year. But yeah, it was cool seeing them face each other hanging out before the game. Swayman, the video him dance, and we kind of touched on last week, was cool with the USA pads. Yep. Good overall showing for a former Bruin or 2 former Bruins and hopefully a current Bruin eventually again, and Krejci and Nordstrom. Maybe Nordstrom will come back and play for the Bruins too.
Bring everybody back.
That'd be something. That would just be funny. I love Nordstrom. He's a freaking maniac. But yeah, some other notes too. Mark Diver has been all on some upcoming development camp notes. I don't know how much I'll make it to development camp this year with, last summer I was unemployed at the time, so I had some time to go down to the development camp, but with work, this year, I don't know if I'll be able to go this year, so I'll be following on Twitter, but we'll see what happens. I doubt it though. I don't think I'll be there. But we do have some, reported invitees, undrafted guys, not of the Bruins organization currently, to fill you in on, 2 undrafted University of Vermont players invited to Boston Bruins development camp: goalie Gabe Carriere and Porter Shockley.
It's a hell of a name.
Who is a 6'4" winger who had 260 penalty minutes in the NAHL a couple of years ago. So the Bruins got their enforcer.
I was just gonna say that. Is your enforcer guy.
Might as well just give him an entry-level contract, dude. Don't even need to see him at development camp.
Bring him up here and crack skulls.
Off for Donnie and Bobby and Jim and the fucking Sullivans.
Eat this.
Whoa.
I can't think that was a whoa for a development camp.
No,
thing.
Marion Barber pronounced dead at 38.
Marion Barber. Why am I?
I saw the name of the ticker for ESPN at the bottom. Holy crap, dude!
Why am I drawing a blank on Marion Barber? Who
playing the NFL?
For who?
I honestly forget the teams off the top of my head. Did he play for the Giants? Wow.
Oh no, was this the Cowboys running back? Yeah, I did see.
Cowboys, okay.
Okay, I don't know why I said I drew a blank on the name. I saw that. Yeah, and it was his apartment. Was found dead in, right? Yeah.
Jeez, dude.
Yeah.
Rest in peace to Marion Barber. Oh my god. It came out an hour ago. I just saw it pop up on the ticker in ESPN. I have the Rangers in a Lightning game. Jeez, didn't expect to see that tonight. But geez, our best to the Barber family and friends and loved ones. That's really unexpected and tragic news. Never love to see stuff like that. Yeah, another situation, like not an easy way to transition into that, but might as well just do it. Another development camp development, redundant for the Bruins. I'm telling you, they pick one guy. They must read my tweets that I like every year. It's Reese Gaber this year from the University of North Dakota. It was Mark McLaughlin. They invited him. My buddy down the street, Mike Hardman, was always wondering if he'd ever get the invite to the local camp. He ended up getting it. Parker Ford, Casey Dornbach, who still could become potential Bruins. Actually, maybe Casey Dornbach got signed, but I don't think he did. Formerly of Harvard, I think he actually transferred. That's what I'm thinking of, to a different school. Got one of those guys that feels like he's been in college for like 40 years. But yeah, Reese Gaber, he's as Mark Diver notes here, he's a 5'8" winger, so he's undersized, scrappy. I just like how he plays. I've watched particularly tournament games in North Dakota in the past few years while Reese has been there, and some regular season games. I just like how he plays. I like his style. I think he's good in 3 zones. I like the speed he plays with. He's got some skill. As Mark also notes here, 15 goals and 37 points in 34 games last year with North Dakota, first team all NCHC, and a finalist for Player of the Year. So he's got some accolades to go along with as well. So Reese Gaber,
maybe a name to watch out for.
I like him. So yeah, development camp. I don't think I will be there in person this year for the first time in like 4 years, but duty calls at work. Got to make the money. Got to make the moolah. But yeah, just a couple development camp notes. The Rangers and Lightning are starting up their second period right now. The Rangers scored early. Chris Kreider, the BC lad, scores. Mika Zibanejad, they showed a quick sizzle reel of him during the regular season. Shootout winner against the Lightning. Next game against the Lightning, scores a hat trick. And then I forget what the third one was already. But then he sets up Kreider for the first goal of this game. So
very nice.
Kind of got the Lightning's number. Might be worth watching with the Rangers. But Tampa, of course, because they're Tampa and they never quite go away. You might hope they will. They score. It's 1-1 going into the second period now, just starting. Really interesting. There was a scrum in front. Igor Shesterkin, I think it was bumped into a little bit. Maybe I kind of saw it in passing, like a defenseman kind of nudged him into Shesterkin. This is Corey Perry, which, Corey Perry, you might expect him doing something dirty. I don't think that was the case, but like I said, saw it in passing. Mm-hmm. The interesting thing, though, is Ross Colton and Frank Vetrano. What a fit he has been, and Andrew Kopp as well. Got tied up, and Ross Colton was just going crazy, punching him, and he had him by the arm. And Colton, he had the arm locked up, and he just goes bam, like he tried to like
break his arm
or like just do something, like kind of like dig deep. And maybe hurt him. I don't know.
Yeah.
He just like, obviously I'm not calling like screaming
full
bloody
blown
murder
like
here,
Jason
but
Bourne shit.
Jesus Christ, it's Jason Bourne. That was just funny, but this series could get a little scrappy. I wouldn't mind that. I'll say this: I'm not one to be like, oh, the bar is all crown, whatever. But look, anybody who knows me well enough knows I wasn't a fan of the Rick Nash trade. It's just watching Ryan Lindgren play a pivotal role for the Rangers just hurts.
It's a killer.
It hurts.
It really is.
It could have prevented the Mike Riley extension that saves you a little bit of trouble.
That is true.
It could have prevented Forbort. I like Forbort, but it's just a trickle down effect. They have Ryan Lindgren in the mix like this level or something like it. Maybe they don't feel the need to have signed them, and things are a little different. Not saying anything negative against the guys, but just like a hypothetical. Look, I don't think people talk enough about the whole Ryan Lindgren thing. I really wish Ryan Lindgren was on the Bruins because he's such a Bruins defenseman. He is. Like he would give him a glimpse of like a few years ago, just like he's not like a Krug in the sense of like the offensive ability, but like he's a little undersized. He plays hard. He's obviously much more physical than Krug, but he's like an undersized guy who just plays his ass off. And he's got that more like defensive stay-at-home thing than Krug. And he's just one of those guys that I don't think, everybody's like finds a way like, oh, like the Bruins missed out on this guy or what. But like nobody really talks about Ryan Lindgren. And that Rick Nash trade, to me at least, looked terrible from the start, and it was.
Yeah.
And that first-round pick ended up in the hands of the Rangers, I believe. I always forget this one. And it ended up with them getting Keandre Miller, who is a stud. So
getting into coulda, woulda, shoulda territory, and it's not looking good.
It's I gotta look at it now just real quick. But I always thought at first, like after the draft happened, I kind of forgot that there was like a little trade tree, but I thought the Bruins traded the first round pick that led straight to Miller. And I was like, oh my God, there's another defenseman that would have been awesome on the left side. Because Keandre Miller was one of these guys like going into his Wisconsin career. I was like, oh my God, this kid's going to be a stud. If he figures out how to use his size effectively enough, he's a good enough skater. This kid's going to be a moose. But yeah, I think it was like the Rangers ended up trading the pick to Ottawa, and Ottawa ended up taking Jacob Bernard Docker. And then the Rangers, with the pick to Ottawa, sent them to, for the Rangers to trade up, I believe it was, took Miller. So it was a trickle down effect. Might be wrong, but I didn't feel like looking all the way back. So just another little rambling. I just had to bring that up because I was thinking about earlier today. It didn't just come up. I really wish Ryan Lindgren was on the Bruins. He's just awesome. He's had some tough moments. That goal he accidentally deflected in. I think he had to hit one hit off of him in the Canes game as well, maybe, or one of them late in the series. But, oh, my God, the guy's a beast. Like, the guy's such a beast. And he got buried from behind by Nino Niederreiter. No call there because the NHL's stupid. Like,
why not? Yeah.
It was the most obvious hit from behind, like, maybe I've ever seen. It was like he had so much time to hold up. He did, and he just buried him from behind. Straight up buried him from behind. Like, no penalty, no suspension, no fine. Like, I just don't get it. You think maybe the pro complainer on the Hurricanes doing something on the other side of things will stick out because they're not used to it. They're like, oh shit, why is Niederreiter hitting someone from behind, obviously, and intending to hurt them? But that's what happened. So as the rambling continues, Stanley Cup playoff thoughts. Stanley Cup playoff thoughts. We have the conference finals. Speaking of draft picks a little earlier, the Jets now own the Rangers' first-round draft pick as a result of the Rangers getting to the conference finals. That was one of the conditions. So a second turns into a first, and the Jets now own the Rangers' first-round pick, and the Rangers do not have one anymore in this year's draft. Igor Shesterkin giving the Canes a fist bump at the end was awesome.
Awesome.
Yep. Dude, their fans are so weird. Their team is so weird. Their Twitter account is so weird. They're just weird. They're weird. And like
a strange hockey team.
They come off with this vibe like they've accomplished anything in the past decade. They just haven't.
Frauds. I said it to you the other day. It was such a poetic ending. Like the fact that, I mean, we can't talk much because the Bruins couldn't do it, like I said to you, but like the fact that you've gone this far in the playoffs, the Stanley Cup playoffs too, especially, like, which we are both in agree on is the hardest playoffs, the most grueling. The fact that you have shown no toughness to win on the road at all in any of the series you've been in so far. Exactly. You don't deserve to be there.
You don't deserve it. And, you know, I feel like some people have more strong opinions about this video than me, but like that video they made of like Bruins fans tweets and Bruins stuff, that's technically targeting harassment towards these tweets and like targeting Canes fans to harass people, which not a great look.
No,
not a great look.
Well, when you're a team that employs,
Twitter's already a shitty enough place.
Yeah.
You just want to essentially, I don't know if they thought of this because it's probably some douchebag running their Twitter account. You probably don't want to do that. Like Twitter's already a bad enough place. Like, but there's just one of those accounts too that's like got some super cringy tweets. Like I think the Golden Knights are the worst example. Like they're just so dorky and they're like, oh, we got to be news. We have to be trendy and dorky and like use like I'm fine with emojis, but like they do all this like
to an extent
goofy shit. Like, are you 13? Like who's 13-year-old is running this account? Like
whose boss's kid?
Yeah, like seriously. It's just weird. The Carolina Hurricanes are just, not worthy of getting to the conference finals.
Nope.
I'd say, the Rangers getting there is a little surprising too. I can say so because I had the Penguins beating them in the first round, but I'm just so happy Tony DeAngelo lost. Yep. I hope the Carolina Hurricanes lose him in free agency. That would be sick. I don't really care where he goes at this point as long as it's not the Bruins. Like somebody will sign him because he's talented enough. They will put his past to the side. So that's just how the NHL works. And the other side, different thing, look how that's working with Evander Kane in Edmonton. Teams will take troubled players in hopes it will affect their team in a positive manner, no matter what their pasts have, shown. So that's just how the league works. Unfortunately, but yeah, it was just so nice to see them lose, and not only lose on home ice for the first time in the playoffs, lose in embarrassing fashion.
Yep.
Like they got shit upon. It wasn't close. It really wasn't close. Now the uncertainty clouds the Hurricanes as they go. Will they lose Vincent Trocheck? Will they lose Niederreiter? Will they lose Tony DeAngelo? It's tough. Sucks. Too bad
hate to see it. Yeah, I feel bad for you.
Couldn't have won a game on the road or something. Fucking idiots.
Kept your season going. Oh, it was the second most fitting loss, or second, I guess, feel good loss, other than the Toronto series. Like Toronto getting bounced after blowing a series again, and then the Hurricanes being exposed to the frauds that they were finally. It's 1A, 1B.
Yeah. It's good. Made me feel good. Made me feel happy. Sucks to see Antti Raanta get hurt though. That's just brutal. They're already missing Anderson, and then Raanta just making a lateral move to make a sprawling save. The guy just had brutal injury luck for the past few years in particular, but overall in his career, like even in Arizona when he was there, just had some really shit injury luck. And that's just brutal. It kind of took the win. I think it took the wins out of their sails. Kochetkov lets a goal up shortly, not too long after that. Rangers.
They score.
Frankie Vetrano, speaking of former Bruins, I'm telling you, that fit. He needs to be a Ranger. He's a free agent. Like, this is where Frank Vetrano belongs. Like, he is such a ridiculously good fit with the Rangers, man. Like, and he's one of those guys that can move up and down the lineup if you need him to. He's been a rock star pickup, a 22 fourth-round pick. Like, you kidding me? That's easy for the way he's been performing. One of the biggest steals, not the biggest steal, at the deadline. Vetrano has just been a menace, dude. Like, just little top of the slot wrister, snapshot, bam. Just a bullet. Not even the big moose. Vasilevsky could stop it. Scrappy Rangers, maybe they make this series interesting, and that segues us into our predictions pretty well. I have Avalanche in 7. They won 8-6 last night, almost recreating
ridiculous
the 9-6 loss the Oilers had to the Flames in the second round. This previous round. I'm going Avs in 7 though. They've just got so much to play for, ending this narrative, they can't get it done. Well, now they're in the conference finals for the first time since 2002. Got 4 of the top 6 players in the world. playing, which is pretty astonishing. Has the chance to be one of the best series we ever see. Very excited. It was an insane game last night. No goaltending was being had. Mike Koskinen,
defense for that matter.
Mike Koskinen and I just combined their names. Mike Smith pulled, I think it was like 5 goals and 20 shots. I might be wrong. Yeah, I mean, that's the risk you run with a 40-year-old goalie.
It's going to say the same thing.
But he's unpredictable. I'd say he's the most unpredictable goalie in the league, and I think that's pretty safe to say. And then, Darcy Kemper hasn't been great at times. He had some rough points in the Blues series, and he just has kind of had a weird playoffs, kind of this weird aura around him. Hasn't made all the timely saves he needs to, and he gets hurt. So that just puts a cloud around the goaltending picture. Edmonton doesn't know who they're going to start in game 2 between Smith and Koskinen. Francouz, Francois, I still don't know how to say his freaking name.
It's a hell of a name.
Anybody does. Might be starting the right-handed catcher for the Avalanche, so that'll be interesting to monitor. I'm going Avs in 7, though. This series is just going to be ridiculous. I will be clearing my schedule every night and not doing anything during those games, and just focusing because I want to savor this series. You just have to. If you can. It's just going to be absolutely wild. Then I have Lightning in 6. The Rangers have had a fun run, but I just really have a hard time seeing them knocking out the Lightning. I do think Igor Shesterkin can help them steal a game or two, though, if not completely steal it, because he is capable of doing that. On one side, you got, some of the best players in the world. On the other side, you have the 2 best goalies in the world. It's pretty interesting. Looking forward to both series. I think in terms of a hatred factor, this has more of the hatred to it between the teams. You got Maroon versus Reeves, which is fun. 2 of the biggest baddies in the league, 2 of the biggest agitators, 2 of the toughest guys in the league. So that'll be fun. It's just 2 teams that are, an interesting matchup because, you got some people call them the power play merchant Rangers. If they can, that's going to be a huge thing for them beating the moose that is Vasilevsky. If they can take advantage of their power plays. Not the best 5-on-5 team, but if it's interesting too. Barclay Goodrow facing his former team has the chance to eliminate his former team, and there's a lot going on this series. There's a lot surrounding Jacob Trouba with the fact that he loves to hit people in the head. It seems like crazy.
Seems like a strange hobby to take part in.
He loves to hit people in the head. It's pretty wild. The hit against Jarvis wasn't super bad, but he did fall through a little through the head, and Jarvis was hurt. So, it just makes the hits a little bit of a sore spot. But yeah, I just don't think the Rangers can do it. I'm giving them a 2% chance to win the series. Sorry, Rangers fans. But I think a lot of them are in the same boat. I know my buddy, Gilmore as well.
Yep.
He's just man, I don't really care if we get swept. I'm just glad we beat the Hurricanes. So maybe
there
a lot of fans are in that boat. Speaking of the Lightning, Andre Palat, 2-2. We're going back and forth. That's an interesting thing for the Lightning too. This might be Andre Palat's last season. They're pretty tight to the cap. He's a free agent, so maybe they're looking to get him one last cup because I think he will certainly play elsewhere next year. Because the salary cap does in fact exist. But yeah, really interesting series for different factors. Got incredible goaltending and a good agitator matchup on one side, and amongst other things. And then you got 4 of the 6 best players in the entire world.
Yep.
And you got Rantanen going. Rantanen had a tough last round, and he scored last night, so maybe he gets going. It becomes a huge factor, like we know he can be. Him and his big frame. Kid is just a monster. I don't know why I just said kid. Guy is a monster when he's on. It's going to be fun. Where are you at on your predictions, though?
I am same for you, except for one game. I have the Avs in 7 as well. I think just a more all-around complete team. And like you said, there's been a lot of questions around them that they are trying to exercise this season. And then the Lightning, I mean, this has, if the Rangers can pull this game out tonight, go up 1-0. This, to me, just seems like a typical powerhouse series where the Lightning are obviously the clear-cut better team. Kind of just say, hey, yeah, we'll give you a game here. And then we're just going to gentleman sweep you. So I think
Lightning funny if they sweep the Panthers, who are the best team in the league this year.
Yeah, and struggle with
struggle with the Rangers a little bit.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think Lightning in 5. But yeah, But you mentioned it already. That was kind of my obviously thing to keep an eye on. Obviously, just the two interesting storylines of the series is, like you said, you have the Avs and the Oilers who just can put up 9 and 8 goals a night, it seems like. And then on the other side, you're going to have all these games that, right, obviously you've seen it in the first two games of these, the first game of each of these series, rather. You get, like you said, 8-6 last night, and then probably looking at maybe 3-2 tonight, maybe 4-3, depending on like a 1 goal down to the wire close game in this series. So that's interesting to me, just completely two opposite ends of the spectrum when it comes to these series.
Yep, it's gonna be fun, and I mean, even with the goaltending with Shesterkin, we've seen him struggle at times too. Mm-hmm. So if he gets in these modes or he's not getting the defensive support, it could be a lot tougher for the Rangers. But he is absolutely the backbone of that team. Still my Hart Trophy pick, even though the playoffs don't factor in. I would pick him over Austin Matthews personally. I just think they would not even be in the playoffs without him.
Probably not. You could make a legitimate case for that, I think.
But it's the Rangers again.
There you go, 3-2.
Philip Hedl is turning into a superstar. Like, not literally, but like he's scoring so many big goals for them. It's crazy. Mm-hmm. They're going back and forth. Maybe they'll top an 8-6 game.
Yeah, I was saying maybe I'll be wrong. Maybe there'll be a high scoring series, and both the two best goalies in the league arguably won't show up for this series.
We'll allow 6 goals against averages of 6 at the end of this playoff series. Mm-hmm. It's gonna be fun, man. It's gonna be a lot of fun. I'm just, of course, cherishing the last games of hockey of the season as well. Mm-hmm. So gotta enjoy them. Gotta be a lot of fun. Yep. It's just gonna be awesome to watch the track meet between McDavid and McKinnon in person. Mm-hmm. Like, in particular, I mean, we saw what McKinnon did in that losing effort in Game 5 against the Blues. Like, that crazy goal and the hat trick only to lose. Both guys playing for a lot. You got McDavid looking to build the start of that legacy with his first cup, and amongst other things, been getting great depth scoring. Then you got the Avalanche, Cale Makar looking for his first cup, Nathan McKinnon and crew looking for their first cup. So Darren Helm has won a cup. He ended the series against the Blues, which is pretty cool. 6 seconds left. Sorry, Blues.
Not really
though. Yeah. Man, it's gonna be fun. I've said it like 6 times. I'm just kind of rambling at this point, as I'm half distracted by the game, but that's okay. Yeah, it was a good Bruins and Celtic centric show. As my brain kind of winds down here a little bit, I can feel.
Gears are slowly
they're
coming to a halt.
A bit. I was up a little earlier today watching the Kenobi episode 4 Word too, so bear with me. Fantastic episode.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for listening. Episode 97 in the books. We say it like every week now, but we just can't go without mentioning our audience grows so much. It grows in Canada. It grows just in general. Crazy. Thank you to the Canadians. Our audience grows like crazy. Another productive month. A lot going on, a lot internationally. So we appreciate wherever you're listening from, wherever you're listening from, whenever you're listening from. Thank you so much and continue to do so. Anyone new, thank you. Please continue to do so as well. We appreciate anybody who listens to this wonderful podcast, unbiased, of course. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Megaphone, Google Podcasts. I forgot to check iHeartRadio and Amazon again. I think I'm just probably going to do that every week because I'm always going to forget. You can watch us on Twitch, YouTube. You can listen to the Full Press Coverage app. You can do all this stuff. Just explore it a little bit if you want. My goodness, do we have options for you, because we just care about the people and care about getting the content about so much. We're so married to the grind, so addicted to the grind. Celtics and Warriors tomorrow will be fun. Mm-hmm. Just a side note, in the middle of the outro.
I'm going to be pissed.
Yeah, that's tough.
Mm-hmm.
You can follow me on Twitter at Mike_Cratty. You can follow Ryan at Ryan_Salvaggio. You can follow the show at Sal and Cratty Pod. You can follow us on TikTok. Throw Salvaggio and Cratty in the search bar there. If you didn't know, I feel like I should mention this more often. We do go live for these shows. If you watch on Twitch or YouTube, or you check our Twitters, you can watch live if you want. I think, the majority of our listeners listen after the fact, and that's fine. But, if you want to listen live, there's always the option. Do whatever you want, though. But, yeah, stay safe, stay healthy, be nice to people. Being nice to people is free. It's pretty easy to do if you're in the right mindset for it. But if you're not, change your mindset. Just be nice to people, man. There's a lot of crazy shit going on in the world. So yeah, just try to make it a better place. We'll talk to you episode 98 next week. Potential Friday episode surprise. We might have to move the episode to Friday because of something I had to do for work. But that still works for your schedule, right? You can do Friday.
Yeah, as far as I know, I think I'm good.
All right. So we will keep you posted on Twitter. I will obviously talk to Ryan about this as well with any developments that come up at work, but I might have to have us reschedule the podcast to Friday next week. So it'll be Wednesday or Friday, most likely, but we will keep you posted. So tune in next week. We'll see you then. And until then, enjoy life and enjoy the Celtics and all that stuff that you do in your life. And we'll talk to you then next week. Peace. All right. Good show. Good show.
Yep, you too.